right, good evening. In compliance with Chapter 551 Open Meetings of the Texas Government Code, I call to order a regular voting meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Thursday, May 18th, 2023 at 6:10 p.m. A quorum of the board is physically present at the AISD Central Office to conduct this meeting. This meeting is streaming live on AISD TV and Apple TV, and it's also being broadcast on cable channel 22 through Spectrum, Astound Broadband, and on channel 99 through AT&T UVerse. Closed captioning in English is available on these platforms for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. But to our audience tuning in remotely and here in person, welcome and thank you so much for joining us. We will move to the approval of the agenda. Secretary Boswell, do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Zapata to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, the motion passes unanimously. Secretary Boswell, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee. Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Te honro, bandera de Texas. Te juro lealtad, Texas. Un estado bajo Dios, uno e indivisible.
Thank you so much. So we will now move to our game changer item, which is our opportunity to recognize and observe important items happening in AISD and our nation. So Mr. Segura, would you please share our recognition?
Absolutely, President Singh. I'd like to ask Darla Coffney, Director of Employee Effectiveness and Sustainability, to come up and share this recognition. And with her tonight is Dr. Kathy Jones, Executive Director of API.
Thank you, Superintendent Segura, President Singh, and trustees. I am really grateful to be here this evening, along with Dr. Kathy Jones, Executive Director of Austin Partners in Education, and Amy Ortiz, Interim Executive Director of Employee Effectiveness, Experience, and Sustainability. So I am here to ask for a formal recognition in honor of our Salute to Excellence recognition event that took place last week. Our sincere appreciation goes out to our Salute sponsors and Austin Partner in Education programs for the ongoing work they do to serve Austin ISD students. In fact, they raised almost $70,000 in their commitment to serving ISD. So thank you, API. A very sincere special shout out to Dr. Kathy Jones here with us this evening for her collaborative support to make Salute the memorable experience that it is. We also want to extend a special thank you to HEB, our valedictorian Salute sponsor, and the City of Austin and Bartlett Cock, our salutatorian sponsors. Salute 2023 broke attendance records and celebrated winners in multiple categories. Our human capital team is thrilled to have provided such an epic experience for our Austin ISD community. We are very grateful to honor our Salute winners and partners, and we would like to request recognition at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Trustee Hunter, do you have a recognition statement to share?
I do. It is with great pride that the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District congratulates and recognizes these outstanding staff members of Austin ISD. We appreciate their dedication to excellence, contributions to a positive climate and culture, and their leadership skills. Tonight, we recognize Classified Staff of the Year, Monica Castro from Gus Garcia YMLA. Librarian of the Year, Stacy Smith from Go Valley Elementary School. Counselor of the Year, Cynthia Diaz, Small Middle School. Assistant Principal of the Year, Matthew Kinney from Blanton Elementary School. Principal of the Year, Keith Moore, Campbell Elementary School. PTAs of the Year, Jocelyn Elementary School PTA and Lively Middle School PTSA. Elementary Teacher of the Year is Megan Vasquez of Becker Elementary School. Secondary Teacher of the Year, Samantha Marion from Rosedale School. API champions are listed on the slide. API Hall of Fame winners are Amy Jones, the University of Texas Neighborhood Longhorn Program. We thank you for your work that you do every day to support AISD's mission to provide a comprehensive educational experience that is high quality, challenging, and inspires all students to make a positive contribution to society. You truly are great models and game changers of our district. Congratulations to the 2020-23 Salute Award winners. So moved.
Thank you. I know some of these people that Trustee Hunter named are here, and I would love for you to stand up so we can recognize you. I see Amy Jones. Yes, thank you. We're truly fortunate to have so much support from our community. Thank you, Kathy, and to everyone else who has been recognized and who's here to support our students. It's so appreciated. All right. So, Mr. Segura, would you please share our next recognition?
Oh, I'd like to invite Michelle Wallace up to provide a recognition for Junior League.
Thank you, Superintendent Segura, President Singh, and trustees. I am honored to be here tonight to recognize longtime community partner, the Junior League of Austin, and a special thanks to 2022-23 Junior League President Shannon Creekmer. And at this time, it's my pleasure to request formal recognition from you all for the Junior League. Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary Boswell, do you have a recognition statement to share?
Yes, I do. On behalf of the Austin ISD Board of Trustees, it is my honor to recognize the Junior League of Austin, JLA, for its longstanding commitment to Austin ISD students. From 1994 to 2013, JLA's ABC Grants program funded Teacher Ideas, awarding more than $200,000 in grants to local area teachers from all grade levels. For more than 36 years, the Coats for Kids program has kept many children, as many as possible, warm so they can thrive and participate in outdoor activities. Since 2020, in partnership with Austin ISD, Coats for Kids has delivered more than 26,000 coats directly to students at their home campuses, removing many barriers to service. Kids in Cool Schools, or KICS, began 6 years ago when JLA identified the need for well-fitting shoes for children at local schools. Research shows that there is a direct correlation between a pair of new shoes and improved attendance, increased participation in physical behavior, and classroom behavior. So far during this school year, KICS has provided over 3,000 new athletic shoes and socks to kindergarten through third grade students at 10 Austin ISD schools. These types of partnerships are to be commended. It is with great pride that the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District recognizes and thanks the Junior League of Austin for its support of Austin ISD students and families.
Thank you, Junior League. Is there anyone here from the Junior League? All right. Well, thank you so much, Trustee Boswell. So our next item is under the President's Report. So this month, we are excited to commemorate the history and contributions of Asian American and Pacific Islander communities here in the U.S. This observance takes place in May to align with a couple of key dates in our history. So May 7th marks the arrival of the first Japanese immigrants to the United States in 1843, and May 10th, known as Golden Spike Day, commemorates the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, as the majority of workers who laid the railroad tracks were Chinese immigrants. Please join me in celebrating the generations of Asian American and Pacific Islanders who have and continue to enrich our district. And continuing with the theme of our pride in the cultural richness of our students, staff, and communities, in May we also recognize Jewish American Heritage Month. So the month of May was chosen due to the highly successful celebration of the 350th anniversary of American Jewish history in May 2004. We at Austin ISD Recognize this month celebrates the contributions, influence, and achievements of Jewish Americans in the United States. And Texas has a proud, long-standing history of supporting the Jewish American community in our state and across the country, and we share that sentiment here in Austin ISD. So, in addition to all of that, we are nearing graduation season, and the board is excited to join our over 4,500 future Austin ISD graduates at our ceremonies. We start off graduations with one of our most personal and beloved ceremonies for Rosedale School on Thursday, May 25th. Graduations will continue through Friday, June 2nd, for 14 other high school campuses. So, trustees, are you ready for that? Okay. Information about individual graduations can be found on our website at www.austinisd.org/graduation, and all ceremonies will be broadcast on AISD TV. Please remember, Austin ISD does have a clear bag policy for events. All graduations will open 1 hour prior to the ceremony, and seating may fill up quickly. Each graduation will have a shuttle service from the campus to the graduation site, as parking is limited for some graduations. Whether our students are moving on to a new grade, a new campus, or preparing to thrive in college, career, and life, we want to thank you for making the 2022-23 school year special. And we hope you're all looking forward to a much, much, much deserved summer vacation. So at this time, we would like to have trustees provide committee reports. And Trustee Whitley Chu is going to, she's not here right now, but Trustee Boswell, I believe you are going to be sharing the report for the Austin Ed Fund.
Yes, happy to do that. This morning, the Austin Ed Fund Board held a deeper dive event at Lively Middle School. I know a few of you were able to join. Thank you for attending. Ed Fund supporters were able to hear from Principal Holliday and Lively Middle School teachers about the impact of community contributions and the Ed Fund Teacher Grant Program. The Ed Fund Board met for its regular voting meeting immediately following the event, and we are excited to honor this year's grant winners at a reception on May 23rd. This year's Inspire the Future grants are open. Applications are due on June 23rd. Please spread the word with educators. You can visit austinedfund.org and click on For Educators to learn more and apply. Support for this program comes from the community, and the Ed Fund's biggest fundraiser is the Inspire the Future Luncheon. This year, that will take place on Monday, October 30th. Sponsorships are available. We invite trustees and the Austin ISD community to help us with outreach to prospective sponsors. You can contact Michelle Wallace at Michelle, Michelle.Wallace, WALLIS, at austinisd.org, or visit the Austin Ed Fund website to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Boswell. Trustees, are there any other committee or training reports to share tonight? So I just want to very briefly mention something about the School Safety and Security Committee, which I co-chair along with Dr. Twyla Williams. And that committee deals primarily with, as you might guess, school safety and security. And we are actually going to be joining forces, I think for the first time, with our SHAC, which is our School Health Advisory Council. We're having a virtual meeting together with the SHAC on June 15th. And the purpose of that is to really talk about drug abuse and vaping and things of that nature, because it really does, it's a health issue, it's also a safety issue, and it seems worthwhile to have those two committees talking together and get some really smart people thinking about how we can identify the problem in our district and figure a path forward to really ensure that our students feel safe and reduce the amount of drugs and vaping in our campuses ultimately. And so I appreciate the administration doing that work and happy to support that. So the next item is the superintendent's report. So Mr. Segura.
All right, thank you, President Singh, Board. As a continuing effort to keep the Board apprised of all things AISD, super excited to provide this month's superintendent's update. So it's time to honor all the great work our students and staff have done. Salute awards and honored staff. We just talked about it. And I have to say the PAC was the place to be last Wednesday night. I had an absolute blast. Thank you to everyone who made such a special evening possible, and congratulations to all of our winners. In addition to recognizing our outstanding winners, we also recognize our Austin ISD Teachers of Promise. Teachers of Promise are first-year teachers who have demonstrated great growth and service to our students. In case you missed it, check out the series of videos featuring all finalists at our website, and just an incredible event. I'm so excited for all the great things happening at AISD. Moving on to Leadership Pathways for Teachers. I'd like to celebrate the 97 educators who made up this year's graduating cohort of the project-based learning, social-emotional learning, and transformative technical leadership pathways. Leadership pathways are optional professional learning opportunities within the Professional Pathways for Teachers, or PPFT system. This 2-year program supports teachers' ongoing professional growth and development and builds leadership skills in one of the district's priority areas, such as differentiated learning and language and literacy. Congratulations to these stellar educators. You can see them all there. Next, Austin Monthly and Texas State Thank a Teacher Award. This year, Austin Monthly and Texas State University partnered to honor our educators who rise to extraordinary heights to educate and inspire students with their Thank a Teacher Award. Out of 64 teacher nominations, out of 10,000 votes casted, our very own Zilker Elementary School first grade teacher, Miss Katie Shagnon, was chosen as this year's winner. According to the parent of one of Ms. Shagnon's students, she is amazing in every way. She has an extremely large class for her grade, 24 students, and my daughter has learned so much from her and is very engaged. She has really made my daughter enjoy school. I feel like she goes above and beyond every day. Congratulations, Ms. Shagnon, for this well-deserved honor, and thank you to Austin Monthly and Texas State for seeing the importance and celebrating our educators who are so integral in our great city. So moving on, last week, 11 members of the Bowie Dispatch staff attended the Spring National Journalism Convention and brought home the final newspaper awards of the year. The Dispatch print edition broke up a California sweep in the Best in Show contest with a second-place finish. Every other school in the top 10 was from California. First place award went to Isabella Del Nido in feature writing and Dimitri Sylvain in sports writing. Their awards were just the second and third Superior Award wins in Dispatch history, so pretty incredible. The team also took home a number of second-place awards, including Ava Wong in commentary writing, Carrie Woolley in press law and ethics, Mazzie Ware in news editing, headline and current events, and Asher Hagen in editorial cartooning. Way to go at Bowie Dispatch. Keep telling the important stories and making us proud. Next, we have National Police Week celebration. I am very excited to recognize our Austin ISD police and security officials this week as part of National Police Week. Every day, the Austin ISD police team works diligently to keep us safe. They investigate incidents, respond to multiple calls a day, and assist other law enforcement agencies when something arises that may impact our schools. Please take a moment to thank our police officers and the staff members in the police department that keep everything running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I can attest to that. I am getting texts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We very much appreciate our AISD police. And as if that weren't enough, when they're doing all the things to keep our schools safe, you'll find them visiting elementary schools for Read Across America and drug awareness programs, or hosting a collection site for National Prescription Drug Take Back Day, in which they collected and safely disposed of over 200 pounds of expired prescription drugs. No matter the need, they're there for us. Thank you, Austin ISD Police. You are true leaders and servants in our community. So next up, the 50 years of service pin. Let that sink in. 50 years of service pin. So I want to take a moment to thank David Liscombe at Navarro Early College High School. Once I found out this pin was being awarded, I knew that I had to be there. I had the privilege of presenting him with his 50 years of service pin on Wednesday. Mr. Liscombe has been at Navarro for all 50 of those years.
Oh my God.
And he has been in, yeah, that's He has been in the same room for almost all of those 50 years. I think he told me he moved like at year 2 and has been there ever since. And it was clear to me, I mean, the relationship he has with the students, the comfort he provides was incredible. I felt lucky to be in his presence, so congratulations again. What an incredible, incredible feat that is. So moving on, wanted to provide an update regarding the K-2 literacy initiative. Our data early this year revealed a need to examine our K-2 literacy curriculum, practices, and ongoing support. In March, a cross-departmental team from academics, multilingual, and special education came together to determine the best path forward. Our cross-departmental group put together a committee of 52 teachers and administrators from elementary campuses. The committee reviewed the materials at the instructional materials showcase and completed an asynchronous review of the materials in a blend course. The asynchronous review included videos of a foundational reading lesson in English and in Spanish. So moving on. The 52 members included staff, principals, and others. The steering committee was also pulled together to review the resources. Principal and teacher nominations for serving on the AISD review committee took place, and materials showcased for all AISD staff located at HQ. So all through the month of April, we had staff coming to HQ so that they could spend time with the resources. Feedback form was provided to gather all input, and as we move forward, in the next couple steps, we'll begin creating coherence of programs to deliver a strong Tier 1 program. We'll make sure that it aligns our literacy and biliteracy framework to the science of reading, uses data to drive instructional decisions, provides ongoing coaching and support. And with that, I conclude the superintendent's update. Thank you, President Singh.
Thank you. So trustees, are there any questions? Yes, Trustee Kaufman.
I just want to acknowledge and commend the Bowie dispatch
Yes.
staff, and I have copies today if anyone would like to see, but I have 4 copies of their latest edition, and it truly is a professional piece of work that goes deep into a lot of pressing issues. So it's a great educational experience for our students to have that coaching on how to really express their voice through journalism. And of special note here is we got Ken Zarefis and the Education Austin team on the front page, so I won't tell you what it says, but it's right there on the front page. But thank you for recognizing their great awards and their great work, and congratulations to our Bowie journalism team.
It's incredible work.
Yes.
Trustees, any other questions or comments? All right, so we will move on to public testimony for items on the consent agenda. So members of the public wishing to participate in the public testimony portion of our meeting called a dedicated AISD phone line in advance of the meeting to sign up to speak in person or to audio record their remarks. And tonight we have 1 person signed up to speak in person, and we have 12 who recorded a message. So we'll now move to in-person testimony, and each speaker, the speaker will be allotted 1 minute. And as you come to the microphone, there is a device that will light up as you move through your 1 minute of allotted time. And when the buzzer sounds, please make a final thought in 1 sentence. Again, we ask that whether you come to give a complaint or praise, that you reference the staff member by position or by abbreviated last name. We ask that all audience members, whether speaking or not, please show respect for others at all times. So our in-person speaker for tonight is Ken Zarefis. So, Mr. Zarefis. There were 2, but 1 decided not to.
Well, I just want to say I'm sorry. I wanted to apologize for not being in the room when the Bowie newspaper was up and the shout out. So thank you, Bowie. Good evening, board, Interim Superintendent Segura. My name is Ken Zarefis. I'm president of Education Austin, the proud employees union for AISD. I first of all want to just thank our membership for their incredible work on developing a campaign, a bold vision that we can do a lot by asking for 12% and $12 more an hour that people thought was outrageous, but we see it was effective. The organizing campaign of We Know Our Worth, because there's a fact that we do know our worth in this, that we're working in this world today. I want to thank Interim Superintendent Segura and your team, Brandy Hozak, Ed Ramos, for really sitting down and being willing to work to a real end. And right now what we have with that hard work is a historic agreement that will literally change lives. A full 7% increase in our certified pay, a historic $4 an hour increase to our hourly employees who so richly deserve this. And in spite of a legislature, I'm sorry, I'm going to take just a second, in spite of a legislature that seems to be just completely against public education, this district and Education Austin continue to say workers deserve more and we'll build for more. And I want to thank you all for doing that. And please, board, approve this compensation package. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zerfus. Okay, we will now play the recorded messages for public testimony, so please listen carefully.
Hola, mi nombre es Marcela, soy una madre y una gran líder de la comunidad y de la escuela. Estoy orgullosa de tener 4 hijos que estudian, 2 en la preparatoria Northeast, 1 en la secundaria Adobe y 1 en la primaria Hart. Primero quiero agradecer y felicitar al superintendente y la mesa directiva por el aumento de salarios para el distrito de Austin. Mil gracias y que esto no sea lo último que hagan positivo. Yo como madre cada día me preocupo por la vida de mis hijos y me imagino que ustedes también, ya que por la falta de maestros, seguridad, consejería mental, esa es que necesitan los estudiantes, esa es una de las razones que los estudiantes han llevado un arma de fuego acabando con la vida inocente y por tomar malas decisiones. Por eso les pido, por favor, que nos devuelvan la Consejería de Salud Mental. Austin Voices ha sido un barco que no me ha dejado ahogarme con esta tempestad. Este programa cambia vidas y mentes de muchas familias, estoy segura de eso. Austin Voices es todo positivo, cómo seguir adelante cada día.
This is an interpretation into English of Mrs. Marcela's message. Hi, my name is Marcela. I am a mother and an important leader in the community and in a school. I am proud to have 4 children who are studying, 2 at Northeast Early College High School, 1 at Toby Middle School, and 1 at Hart Elementary. First, I would like to thank and request the superintendent and the board of trustees the salary increase for the Austin School District. A million thanks, and I hope this will not be the last positive thing you do. As a mother, I worry every day for my children's lives, and I imagine so do you, since due to the lack of teachers, safety, mental counseling that the students need, that is one of the reasons why students have brought fire guns, putting an end to innocent life, and because of making bad choices. That is why I ask you to please give back to us the mental health counseling. Austin Voices has been a boat that has not let me drown in this storm. This program changes the lives and minds of many families. I am sure about that. Everything is positive about Austin Voices, how to move forward every day.
Hi, this is Louis Malfaro, Associate Executive Director of Austin Voices for Education and Youth. For the last several months, Austin Voices has conducted a series of listening sessions with parents, students, staff, and community members. Our Voices, Our Vision, Our Schools is designed to help determine what's working in our schools, what needs to be improved, and how the district can best support students and families. We visited schools at all levels in North and South Austin. Concerns about staffing and about supporting teachers and staff were among the top issues parents and students shared with us. We congratulate the superintendent and Education Austin on reaching an agreement to raise pay for teachers and staff. We encourage the board and administration to keep a strong focus on fully staffing our schools, especially Title I schools and schools serving large immigrant and refugee communities. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Kambati Ancilla, a speech therapist with AISD for 25 years. Thank you again, Board of Trustees, for listening to all of us so you are informed when making the right decisions for the students we serve. AISD is losing many speech therapists as we are not getting a raise commensurate with that of the LSSPs and educational diagnosticians, which is due to the evaluation backlog and TEA conservatorship. In my 25 years, there has been much turnover in special ed administration, mass resignations of evaluation staff. The speech therapists have been loyal to AISD by meeting all evaluation timelines and bringing much money through Medicaid reimbursement for therapy and evaluations. We have always kept TEA in compliance, AISD in compliance with TEA. AISD is now asking speech therapists to be trained in ADOS administration to assist LSSPs with completing summer evaluations for students referred for autism, but is not paying speech therapists any more than they did last summer, while LSSPs have already been getting a 20% raise. Please vote yes on a pay raise for speech therapists and show us that AISD does value us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Jacobs, and I am a speech pathologist in the district. I want to thank the Board of Trustees for listening and considering our thoughts and concerns. I feel like Austin ISD prides themselves on being equitable. However, it does not feel like this recent pay raise for certain evaluation staff, the DIAG and LSSPs, was equitable. The group of SLPs in this district are collectively completing a large portion of evaluations on time, providing therapy to 45 or more students, and making sure our paperwork is meeting legal timelines. We are often the evaluation staff advocating for students and making sure academic and psych evaluations are being completed and following up numerous times to check the status of those evaluations. Feels like we are being punished for doing our job and others are being rewarded. It does not feel fair or equitable in any way. Thank you so much.
My name is Sam Barrows, and I'm an AISD parent calling about agenda item 12.4 regarding student health services. I feel that AISD taking nursing in-house would be a mistake. Ascension nurses have done an extraordinary job taking care of my kid and all of the kids within the AISD community. They assumed many more roles over the recent years and helped us all get through COVID, kept us all up to date on the changing, COVID guidelines and everything like that. They were fantastic. And I don't see a reason why to change that. And not to mention having 3 different healthcare companies next year, running the different levels of education sounds like it'd be confusing to parents of multiple kids that have kids in high school and middle school and elementary school and all over the place. So I think you should reconsider your position on that and keep everything, all of the healthcare within the Ascension company, I guess. Thank you for your time.
Hola, mi nombre es Teresa Rivera. Tengo un hijo que ya está en Lhasa High School, pero mi hijo salió de Dobie Middle School. Sigo siendo un líder comunitario y por medio de Austin Voices tuve la oportunidad de certificarme de promotora de salud. Tuvimos la oportunidad de reunirnos con un grupo de padres que están de acuerdo con aumentos de salarios. Queremos que haya igualdad en todas las escuelas. Necesitamos más maestros, consejeros, apoyo con programas. Si el personal tiene más incentivos, nuestros hijos tendrán mejor rendimiento académico. Entendemos que es el primer paso, pero pedimos atención con recursos para niños que aprendan inglés. Necesitamos salud mental, etcétera. Yo felicito al superintendente, el señor Segura, a la mesa directiva y a todos los maestros y personal que estén de acuerdo con estos aumentos. Y agradezco a Austin Voices por todo el gran apoyo y que sigan con su arduo trabajo que dan en las escuelas comunitarias. Y agradezco que se nos tomen en cuenta, que nuestras voces sean escuchadas. Muchas gracias.
This is an interpretation into English of Teresa Rivera's message. Hi, my name is Teresa Rivera. I have a son who is now in Lhasa High School, but my son came from Dobie Middle School. I continue being a community leader, and through Austin Voices, I had the opportunity to get certified as a health advocate. We had the opportunity to meet with a group of parents who agree with the salary increases. We want to have equity in all schools. We need more teachers, counselors, program support. When the staff has more incentives, our children have better academic performance. We understand it is a first step, but we ask for attention to resources for children so that they will learn English. We need mental health, etc. I congratulate the superintendent, Mr. Segura, and the Board of Trustees and all the teachers and staff who agree with these increases. And I thank Austin Voices for all the great support, and I hope they will continue the hard work they do in community schools. And I thank you for taking us into account so that our voices will be heard. Thank you very much.
Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Zaira Castro, soy padre de familia y líder comunitario de Austin Voices. Tengo 3 hijas que asisten a la escuela de Hart, Dobie y Northeast High School, la cual yo estoy de acuerdo que los maestros, el personal de la escuela tengan un mejor salario. Esto puede ayudar a que tengamos más maestros y consejeros aplicando para las vacantes que hay en nuestras escuelas. Así tendremos mejor rendimiento académico y oportunidades para que nuestros hijos puedan sentirse más seguros cuando presentan un examen. Yo tuve una experiencia con una de mis hijas que le pregunté que si estaba lista para presentar su examen de STAR. ¿Cuál fue su respuesta? Que me dijo que no, porque todo el año escolar no había tenido un maestro estable en su clase. Esto está afectando a nuestros hijos en su enseñanza, lo cual queremos que esto cambie por el bien de nuestros hijos para que ellos tengan un mejor rendimiento académico. Quiero felicitar al superintendente y a la mesa directiva y a los maestros y al personal que estén de acuerdo en el aumento del sueldo por un futuro mejor para nuestros hijos. También estoy agradecida por el apoyo a Austin Voices como líderes comunitarios en las escuelas.
This is an interpretation into English of Zaira Castro's message. Hi, good morning. My name is Zaira Castro. I am a parent and community leader for Austin Voices. I have 3 daughters who attend Hart School, Dobie, and Northeast High School. I agree that teachers, school staff should have a better salary. This can help to have more teachers and counselors applying to the vacancies in our schools. That way, we will have a better academic performance and opportunities for our children to feel more confident when taking a test. I had an experience with one of my daughters when I asked her whether she was ready to take her STAR test. What was her answer? She said no, because throughout the school year, she had not had a stable teacher in her class. This is affecting our children's learning, and we want this to change for the benefit of our children so that they will have a better academic performance. I want to congratulate the superintendent and the board of trustees and the teachers and staff who agree with the salary increase for a better future for our children. I am also thankful for the support to Austin Voices as community leaders in schools.
Hello, I'm an AISD parent. I'm calling about item 12.2. I would like to advise the board to have caution in improving this item. I have strong cause to believe a verbal, undocumented directive has been given to campus that limits access to reading by design for all students, even when documentation and data support the need for a different intervention. I would advise the board to insist on an audit of literacy that includes what percentage of students receive reading by design before approving this. I wonder if this money will unwillingly go to supports that students may not receive, as access to take flight, listed here under Scottish Rite, is increasingly elusive to students across the district. If you must vote yes, please add some robust checks and balances as to how these expenditures will benefit students across the district by way of a literacy asset map and frequent checks on the funding associated with this line item and the number of students served by these materials. Thank you.
Yes, hi, my name is Charlotte Blanche. I'm a parent of 3 children in the district who receive special education services, and they do receive dyslexia services. So I'm calling about item 12.2. I would like to advise the board to have caution in approving this item. I have a strong belief. I know that there's being a verbal directive that's being given to tell campuses to limit access to take flight and give students reading by design, which is the standard protocol intervention for dyslexia students, even when documentation data support a need for a change in intervention or a different intervention. I would advise the board to insist on an audit of literacy that includes what percentage of students receive reading by design access and to take flight. Reading access to take flight as listed here under Scottish Rite. And I also want to encourage the board to please follow up, if they do vote yes on this item, to please follow up and include checks and balances that will to make sure that this is benefiting students, because currently they are not receiving access to take flight at the campuses at a rate that they should, at a rate that the data shows that they should. Thank you. Bye.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Donahue, and this is my 21st year serving as a bilingual speech therapist, or SLP, in Austin ISD. First, thank you, trustees, for hearing out our concerns and engaging in discussion with members of our department. The other day, I received a flyer from my son's principal about an upcoming critical needs fair for Austin ISD staff. Speech therapists, as well as bilingual professionals, are listed among the roles deemed as, quote, critical needs. I couldn't agree more. But my current paycheck and the one that I face next school year, unless there is a significant increase in compensation for speech therapists, do not currently reflect my professional worth, even though I tick 2 of those critical needs boxes. Please, in order to retain our amazing speech therapists and provide quality services to students, I urge you to vote to pay us both competitively for the local market and comparably to our licensed specialists in school psychology counterparts. Gracias por su atención.
Hi, my name is Lynette DeCarly. I'm a speech pathologist here at AISD. I've worked here for 15 years and worked in the schools for 29 years as an SLP or a speech path speech therapist. I wanted to thank the board for making sure that we are not going to be passed up for raises again this year, and thank you for showing your worth, showing our worth to you, and also wanted to see if you could put us on a different pay scale so our pay is commensurate with what we could get in private practice, being contractors or working somewhere else. They also wanted to see if we could get a similar raise, 20%, that the LSSPs and diagnosticians got, as we have been a valuable asset to AISD and completed in most part, met all our timelines and compliance issues. Okay, thank you very much.
My name is Kendra Everett. I'm a speech language pathologist in AISD. Happy Better Hearing and Speech Month and National Speech Language Pathologist Day to all of the SLPs in AISD. Please make putting us on our own pay scale and giving us a raise official. Please consider making that raise commensurate with what you've given to LSSPs, as we SLPs have stayed and continued to meet evaluation timelines. We have to balance providing all of the services that are direct and indirect services to our students, along with completing evaluations. And to date, we've completed over 3,000 evaluations for this year. We are also special education case managers, art facilitators. We provide non-speaking learners a way to express themselves and participate in their curriculum and teach and interact with peers at their fullest through assistive technology. We also provide any other student that has communication challenges, such as speech production, voice, stuttering, and language challenges to
Okay, I believe that was the last one. So I wanted to ask trustees if you had any questions or comments about any of the comments that we heard tonight. Yes, Trustee Kaufman.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to commemorate National Speech to Language Pathologist Day. I didn't realize that May 18th was that day, so it is today. And congratulations on, thank you on behalf of my family and me for the support that you provide and to all the students in the district. And little known fact, I received speech therapy when I was in elementary school, and I still remember the little picture of the snake that I had to practice my S's with. And I think I was incomprehensible prior to that. So I know that you all can make a big difference, and I hope that we can do justice by respecting your talents and your services. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kaufman. I took speech therapy too. S's were the problem for me as well. Anybody else? Yes, Trustee Hunter.
Yes, I just wanted to ask the superintendent. We received, I think, 3 calls tonight about 12.2 and several emails just to look at the concerns of those parents or those family members, community members. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, great. Thank you. So I did want to now move to an update on our intruder detection audits. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, Trustee
So
Coffin, go
I
ahead.
meant to bring this up earlier after the celebration of Salute, and as we recognized our staff members, but I wanted to just tag on to that and recognize all of our staff members and our student teachers and others who just graduated recently from universities. I had the privilege of attending the University of Texas School of Education graduation and saw many of our staff members receiving master's degrees, and I'm sure that there were many of our student teachers receiving their undergraduate degrees at that as well. And so I don't know who you all are, but for all of our staff members who've recently graduated with master's or doctorates or bachelor's degrees from all the different universities in the area, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Dr. Reach, Chief of Government Relations, please provide the update regarding intruder detection.
Thank you so much, Interim Superintendent Segura, Board President Singh, and Board of Trustees. So school safety audits were a new requirement from the Governor of Texas. The requirement started in 22-23 this school year and asked all campuses to conduct checks and audits of exterior doors and regularly recheck these doors. As part of that process, the Governor has directed the Texas State School Safety Center and TEA to conduct intruder detection audits on school campuses during the year. Despite the name, they are not forced entry intruder drills. They are plain-dressed individuals who are working with the education service centers in the area, who arrive at the schools and attempt to either open a door or let someone in through a door. Whether that is successful or not, their next step is to go meet in the office with an administrator, walk around the campus and check all of the exterior doors. And they will also check if a school district has a policy around interior doors. They will also check the interior doors. Finally, the auditor checks the logs to ensure that that campus has been doing weekly checks. When campuses do not meet one or more of those, we are required to hold a planning meeting with that campus, and we address those concerns. We also expedite any fixes that may be needed for those exterior doors that were identified so we can get that fixed right away. Those results are then shared with our Safety and Security Committee, and they just met 2 days ago. And then we provide a public item at our next board agenda, which is this item here today, to share that info and let the public know that we have had audits conducted since we've last met, and at least one or more campus had a concern. So since we last met, they have conducted 5 audits. That means that so far this school year, they have conducted 90 campus audits, including the ones that are done tonight, which brings us to 78.3% of all campuses, which brings us above our 75% mark. Now, we do not know if they will still be conducting audits. We have sent a reminder on when our last day of school is so that people aren't showing up in June and knocking on doors. And also that we do have some graduations coming on, and it would be quite an experience to have them there while our schools are on a graduation. But we believe that we are done for this year. We'll see if there are any more, and if so, I'll be back in June. And then we will continue to work with the TEA office responsible for this to see what changes may be coming out next year, and also to report out through surveys that they've provided to us and through our teammates and our colleagues on what we think worked well and where we can use where we can use support from TEA and from Texas State on helping secure our campuses. So due to the confidential nature of these safety plans, we will not be disclosing any of the campuses by name. However, the individual findings for these are available to trustees in the executive section of your meeting. And if you have any questions, we can discuss in additional detail in executive session as needed. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reach. Trustees, are there any questions about the intruder detection audits? All right. Thank you. Okay, so our next item is part of our commitment to discuss student achievement, and we have a presentation on scorecard goal 11 through 14th, which is surveys and the panorama overview. So, Dr. Reach.
Thank you so much for having me back. So I let me pull up our presentation. Very excited to also introduce Kevin Hazel, who is our executive account manager. I may have gotten that wrong. Basically, he is our partner with Panorama on the implementation of these surveys and all the work that we do through the surveys. So we're glad to have Mr. Hazel here and another member of his team. He has prepared a presentation looking at some of our indicators related to the scorecard and overall results from our student, staff, and family surveys that we're going to ask him to go through, and we'll take some time to talk about our scorecard indicators. And then also we want to remind the board that we are still looking for feedback on potentially finalizing the staff scorecard indicator for surveys. And I've sent some information through email, but when we get there, I can also go into more detail on some of the questions that we're asking on that. I will turn it over to our colleague, our partner, Mr. Hazel. And that water's for you. And turn on your mic.
Testing. Okay. Awesome. Good evening, President Singh, members of the board, Superintendent Segura, members of the AISD, and guests. My name is Kevin Hazel. I am the Texas Account Director that has had the pleasure of supporting Austin ISD over the past year of our partnership. I'm extremely excited to be here today, and I really thank you for inviting me to be here to talk about some of the truly amazing work that's happening across your district in Austin ISD. So as we get started, there we go. So I've had the pleasure of supporting large district partners across the state of Texas for over 5 years now. And the work that is happening in Austin is truly innovative and impressive. This evening, I will begin by sharing an overview of the survey program overall, which, and then also we will jump into some of the data highlights, and then share a little bit about the work that's happening across the district to really move the needle and build momentum in ensuring a culture of respect and equity. So for those of you who are not familiar with Panorama, we work with over 95 districts across the state of Texas. We also support the majority of districts in the Council of Great City Schools and the Texas Urban Council of Superintendents. And we're really excited that Austin ISD is also a member of our partnerships. And the work that we do really centers around empowering educators with the data and tools they need to make data-driven decisions centered around student outcomes and experiences. So as we kind of launched our partnership with you all in Austin ISD, I was really impressed to see how the team that came together was really centering around the vision and mission of the district and existing frameworks and practices across the district. And today we'll be talking a little bit more about that when we get into what the work looks like in practice, which I think will be an exciting update from our presentation last year when the work was just beginning. So just a quick reminder for those of you who might be new to this work. When we launched our partnership last spring, the leadership of the team kind of brought together and facilitated different focus groups and a cross-functional team to think about what we need to know about school culture and climate and safety to make sure that our students, staff, and families are having the best experience possible. And through this process, we heard a few different themes, mainly around climate and satisfaction across the district, around development and retention of your employees, and also, and I know this is something that is underscored in all of your work, in promoting equity and ensuring each and every student has an equal opportunity. So with that, when we look at the data, you'll see that the topic areas that we measured are really focused around climate and safety and belonging, relationships, ensuring that teachers and students have those relationships where students can be pushed to rigorous expectations. We also want to know about the climate from the family perspective, whether they believe their students are safe in school, and also their engagement with the school itself and how you all support families in helping to promote their students' education. So we just closed out surveys about exactly a month ago on April 18th, and we're excited to share some of what we heard. And just in that same vein of kind of embedding this work in existing practices and structures, I think there's a few really important pieces to think about. So one thing, I know that student agency is really a big focus of your work in the Equity Action Plan. And there's a few different examples that I'm going to share with you in just a few minutes around how the district leadership team is engaging students in schools, particularly in the high schools, in helping them really learn through a process of data analysis and become student leaders in their schools and collaborate across schools to see some of the things that they can put in place to improve their peer experiences. This morning, I spent a big part of my day with the executive directors in the Office of School Leadership, and we were digging into how we can embed the staff survey information into your leadership evaluation process and your campus improvement plans. And of course, the main focus of today is to review that district scorecard. So I am going to pass it over to Dr. Reach.
All right, I'm excited to share the information from our scorecard. So the first one that we have is Goal 11, and that is our measure of staff participation. We have included up here participation for all groups, and I want to talk through that a little bit, but I just want to first highlight our goal for staff participation, which is to reach 80% by 2025. From spring of 2022, that percent did decline. There was a significant decline from 71.6% to 62.7%, and in just a moment, I'll talk through some of our observations on that. We saw a similar decline with our students and our families. Our students went from 75.4% to 64.5%, and our families decreased about 40% overall, from 12,000 responses to 7,600 responses. There are certainly some highlights, and that includes our elementary school participation overall was strong. It was above that 80% where we wanted to be. I also want to brag on a couple of campuses and on a couple of individuals. First, we had 24 campuses that reached the 90% student participation. I was able to go out and visit the first 4 that got above that 95% and congratulate them on the great work that was done. So I just want to highlight St. Elmo, who got to 100%. And I want to think about how hard, it doesn't matter how big your school is. It's hard to get to 100% because kids are absent, kids move, kids may have a need that maybe just doesn't relate well to the survey. There are things that we need to work with. But St. Elmo got to 100%, and they did it well before the deadline. They did it like a week before the last day of the survey. And so I was able to meet with the principal and was able to learn about Miss Ruiz, their assistant principal, who just said that she was going to get to 100% is what she told her principal, and then she went out and did it. And she was sharing about how she bragged on the kids for all the great work that they were doing, and also how she shared with the kids about how helpful this is for them as a campus to understand their perceptions. So we so appreciated the work she did. I'm going to come back to number 2 in a second because that one's really special as well. Also want to brag on Wooten and Wendy Carrillo, who is a teacher. I believe next year she's going to be a coach at that campus. And she likewise said that she understood how important it was for the students to do this. And she shared with me that they had some students who maybe spoke a language that they were most familiar with, that they may have been the only student at that school that spoke that language. And so Ms. Creel would go and work with that student and use Google Translate to go through the survey with them, because she wanted to make sure that no student didn't have the opportunity to complete the survey. And they got to 99.2%. That's where you get to that little, I'm still going to count it as 100. It's just what I'm going to tell you guys. I hope you don't mind. Counting it as 100, we round up. Or for 98.6, I'm sorry. I'm still counting it. Round up. Brentwood Elementary also got almost a week early got above 95%, got to 97.4, and that was Aaron Tigalar, the librarian. And also, so they have I hope I'm getting this right, they have 1.5 librarians working at Brentwood, and that one librarian goes between 2 campuses. So she was splitting this between 2 campuses, but one of the things she wanted to do when she was at Brentwood was to make sure that all classes were able to participate in this. And she shared with me that 2 of the things they did, one was trying to capture all the students within a single class time. So they knew, I apologize, I don't remember the class time, but that second period is when they were going to do this. The other was that they followed up with their teachers on something that they were calling, and I'm not going to get the exact wording right, but basically like a house cup competition. And one of the things that they looked for the House Cup competition is how well were teachers completing surveys. And so teachers were really involved as well to get that done. But now I want to talk about Gus Garcia Young Men's Leadership Academy. Because not only is this 99.2% impressive, period, just overall, but we have not had a secondary school above 80% at all. They were not only the first ones to get above 80%, they got to 99.2%. And a lot of that is due to their 2 staff members. I wrote their name down so I can remember it. Coach Larry Morrison and Anita Spadaro, who is the counselor at that campus. And so I don't know if you've been able to meet Coach Morrison. I found out he was also their Teacher of the Year this year. But Coach Morrison was just saying, like, oh, yeah, we just need to get it done. We just need to get it done. So we worked on it, and he was very modest about it. And then Ms. Spadar was telling me that, well, actually, it was my responsibility, and I was asking other staff members, what could we do? And Coach Morrison pointed out, well, every kid goes to PE at least once during the day. And so why, instead of trying to figure out a class, like an instructional class period to do this, why don't we have them take it during PE? Because then we know we're going to hit every single kid. He said, so I'll do that. And that's what they did. And they got 100% rate. So I just had to brag on them. That was so great. As you can see, we also have 22 campuses above 80%. But as I mentioned, overall, we did not hit our goals, and we did regress a little bit. So we want to reflect on that, see what we can do to help support around this. What we know were some of the things that worked well for the students was, of course, creating a plan ahead of time and making it be a campus plan instead of asking individual teachers, please get surveys done, and then there not being a coherent plan around there. So that's something that we want to share, especially with our elementaries where that may make a little bit more sense. Secondary could be a little bit different. But we do want to share some of the great things we learned, like with Garcia, with our other middle schools, because that is something that's going to hold true for all of our middle schools and how that can help with those schools increasing their rates. With staff, we do know that one incident that occurred was that we had another staff survey out right before this survey. It just went to Title I teachers, and it was just the Title I teachers. It was not Title I staff. Is that correct? Just teachers, that's what I thought. And so we learned that for some teachers, they got the second panorama survey, and they said, oh, the district asked me to do a survey. Oh, I've already completed that, so I'm good. I got it done. And we did not do a good enough job messaging to our teachers, one, how they're different, why they're both important, but probably more importantly, just apologizing for sending them one survey after another, because that was not our original intention, and we want to make sure that we're not overloading teachers with surveys or additional work. So that's something that we really need to focus on, and that did affect all of our Title I campuses across the district. Some other things that we want to do with our families that we heard worked really well was a couple different things. One was a campus who sent home with their students not only information about the survey, but a QR code. So families who may not have quick access to a computer but had access on a smartphone could scan that QR code and take the survey on your phone. And this survey is optimized to be able to be taken on a phone as well. So that's certainly an option. And we saw that campus had pretty good results. Also, a couple of campuses were able to use events that they already had scheduled and then let families know, please also fill out surveys, and they had computers there. And again, where I heard that these stories were occurring were also campuses that tended to have a little bit higher than average results. So we want to make sure that we're sharing some of those best practices with other campuses to try to bring these results up. So I'm going to move on to our next three. It's the next slide, right? Yes. So our next three goals, 12 through 4, under our culture of respect, is, and they're each written individually. The first one is students, then staff, then family, but I'll read them all together. It's increased the percent of student, staff, and family satisfaction measured by the School Climate Survey section on Panorama by August 2026. And what you see here is the survey divided up depending on the type of survey. So for students, there's a 3rd through 5th and a 6th through 12, but our scorecard indicator is the combined. And so we did combine these properly we didn't average 2 averages, don't worry. We actually added the total number up and then took the average of that. So for spring 2022 for our students who felt that there was a strong school climate, that did decline 3 percentage points from 52% to 49%. And I should mention the way that we measure this. So all these questions are basically a 5-point scale, and the top 2 are what counts towards the percentage of positive. So if there's a middle one, and it could be that they could be anything from no opinion or some of the time. It depends on what the question is. But we would normally not, we do not count that towards the percent that you see related here. We need students, staff, or family to answer in the top 2 of those 5 choices. So for staff, those rates did go up. Looks like maybe, I think we flipped our arrow on the 66%. Sorry about that. But you saw that big increase for our instructional staff. That's our teachers, librarians, and counselors, and a good increase for non-instructional as well. So that went from 60% to 66%. And then for our families, that did go down as well, similar to our students, 71% to 68%. So that's kind of a summary of our scorecard indicators. I do want to mention that what we have here, as I shared earlier through email with the trustees, for staff is looking at the school climate subsection. But we also recognize that this board has expressed interest in continuing to discuss what either what else or what in addition could make up that staff question to better understand staff climate in the survey subsection. And so we are also ready to have that conversation now, or have that conversation as we continue to discuss the scorecard in the coming months. All right, so I think Mr. Hazel's now going to talk about some highlights in our survey.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Reach. So the first piece that we wanted to highlight was employee feedback on the district support. So these are customized questions that were written by the district as part of those scorecard goals. And so one thing that's positive is we've seen a steady increase for both instructional and non-instructional school-based staff over the 3 administrations. So the staff survey we did run last spring, we ran it again this October, and then we ran it again in March and April. And so the biggest strength it's a 3-question topic, was the district has clearly defined mission and vision for all schools. And so we heard 43% and 39% respectively from non-instructional and instructional staff. The thing that was kind of weighing down the topic a little bit was there's an atmosphere of trust and mutual respect within this district, and that was around 35% and 25% respectively. And instructional staff perceptions tended to increase with the number of years of experience within the district, which I thought was an interesting thing as I was going through the data. So the longer you've been in AISD, the more positive you feel about the district's support. And then when we took a closer look at the student climate topic, while we know it declined by about 3 percentage points this time around, we did see that for AISD elementary schools, they landed right around the hump of the bell curve within Panorama's national data set. And as you know, that's a statistical model we built where we can actually compare to similar schools. So we do work with a lot of urban districts across the country. And so one positive in that is that percent favorable, we saw 63% favorable, is right in line with what we see on average across the country. With that said, when we looked at middle and high schools, they fell in around the 10th percentile when compared nationally to similar schools. So that was just a noticing that we had. And the greatest strength in student perception on school climate was their perception that their school environment is generally positive, especially in elementary schools. Your youngest kids are definitely, they're saying 74% of them are saying that there's a positive energy in their school building. That said, for almost all, or for each of those grade bands, so elementary, middle, and high, we saw that the thing that was weighing down student perception of general climate was the impact of other students' behavior on their learning, which was another thing that was interesting. When we took a little bit of a deeper look at staff, I think this is a bright spot across the whole survey administration. We saw that that topic area increased quite a bit. We also saw that in particular when staff were asked about when new initiatives are being rolled out, how supportive are your colleagues? That increase was one of the more favorable areas. And we heard that 80% of employees believe they are trusted to do their work in the way that they think is best. And 72% of employees feel strongly about the respectful relationships between students and staff, which I know is core to this scorecard goal around building a culture of respect. And one of the interesting things about just the school climate topic overall, I didn't see the same trend in the more years being in AISD, your perceptions increasing when you're looking at school perception. So when they're reflecting on district support, we did see that trend. Those who have been in the district longer responded more favorably, but we saw more consistency looking at perceptions on school climate. And then the last responding group we just wanted to dive into quickly was the area around family climate and their perceptions. And we did see that perceptions of school climate just decrease slightly since last spring, but they still remain in the 50th percentile as you compare to other districts across the country. In this area, we also saw that about 76% of families feel strongly about the level of respect teachers have for students in AISD schools, again, aligning to that goal around building a culture of respect. All right, so those were just a few of the highlights. There's a lot to dig into, and I know we have a public link available so that you all can dig in yourselves. But one of the things I thought would be interesting to share, which we couldn't share last year because it was the first couple of months of our partnership, is some of the work that's happening to increase engagement and increase outcomes in terms of those survey scores. And the year 2 of partnerships with Panorama is a really important year because you're learning from the groundwork you set in year 1, and you're starting to build momentum and set up more structures that will build consistency and enable sustainability over time. And so today I'm going to share a little bit about some of the findings, the learnings, and initiatives that have been happening. And one thing I just wanted to ground us in is everything that we're doing, from engaging students to engaging staff and leadership, is really grounded in the district's existing frameworks, like your SMARTY goal setting, your campus improvement plans, and today hearing from some of the executive directors of school leadership, they were sharing about how they're already embedding Panorama data into their principal coaching conversations, and they have principals actually coming to them with evidence on, this is what I want to improve, and this is how I want help and support to do that. So that was really exciting. We thought we were going to be teaching them how to push the buttons today, but they were already pros in a lot of ways. And so one of the things that two of the strategies that we have to increase this engagement, because we see that scores increase naturally when your communities hear with consistency, we heard you in the survey. This is what we've identified as things that are going well. These are the things that we need to improve on, and these are the actions we're taking. So as I alluded to earlier, one of the key areas that we've been focusing on since the fall is promoting student agency in school climate. Ms. Superintendent Segura, I know you're pretty aware of this, but this year, with the leadership of Dr. Katrina Bailey and Stephanie McGraw, they developed this Superintendent Student Advisory Board that meets on a monthly basis. And similar to, I know Trustee Boswell and President Singh, you all had met with me and we went through some kind of data inquiry protocols. And I remember last year, Trustee Lugo, you had said how the graphs in the reporting could create some good learning opportunities for students. So we kind of have been running with that under the leadership of your great team. And so on a monthly basis, we've been meeting with students and walking them through step by step. This is how we analyze the data. Now this is how we're gonna go, and we view survey data just as a flashlight where you're uncovering kind of what you need to learn more about, what you're wondering about. If you remember the I Notice, I Wonder protocol that we went through. And I'll show you in a second, but we had some really, really impressive results in our last meeting this month. And then the second piece is part of what we were meeting today with the Office of School Leadership about was aligning to the Campus Administrator Performance Review process, the CAPER. And so I'm going to jump into that in just a second. But just a little bit more, because this was probably one of the highlights of my year personally, just seeing the amazing work happen under some of the amazing leaders that you have at this district. The student advisors, there was student advisors represented from every high school, and they came on a monthly basis to collaborate, to have lunch with their district leaders. And as a result, as they went through the process, they partnered with their principals, so building principal engagement and thinking about different angles of how to keep bringing up and resurfacing student voice and family voice and staff voice. They actually went in and proposed new CIP goals and new actions associated with those. And this is just one example from Navarro High School, where they actually came with a fully built-out slide deck to the last meeting, which was not asked or required. And they're just one of the schools that did that, but I thought a really exceptional example. And then finally, as we think about coaching principals and helping them build their capacity and analyzing the data, thinking about how, again, to resurface those themes that they're learning from the data, because like I said earlier, the more that you resurface kind of what you're hearing from your community, you're naturally going to increase your response rate. It takes time to get there and build those systems and processes. But one of those things is aligning to the CAPER framework, where we saw instructional leadership being really closely tied to Panorama's feedback and coaching topic, talent development to the professional learning topic, and executive leadership to the school leadership topic. And then the culture builder competency was really kind of a combination of the school climate and belonging survey sections. So we're really excited. We had kind of an introductory meeting today, and we're going to be having, I know Stephanie McGraw is excited to, we had people saying, when can we get more involved in this, which is music to our ears. And so with all of that said, and I want to open it up to questions and answers, I think the year 2 of our partnership, the theme here is growth and momentum. And we're excited to see what that looks like in year 3 as we think about growth in our numbers towards our 2026 goals, because that's the end goal. But a few kind of recommendations or things that through conversations with a lot of different departments, we've been working with the MTSS department and the SEL department, thinking about where can everybody have a piece of the pie in terms of elevating stakeholder voice and what you own with your department in alignment with your goals. So a few of those recommendations are collecting feedback from campuses around their process. So like what Dr. Reach was just sharing, finding those best practices and sharing them across for all the principals so that everybody can get 100%. Creating consistency around how the district campuses are communicating those takeaways. I know Zachary Johnson has built out kind of a website page where we're going to be highlighting some of those key takeaways from a district perspective and modeling for school teams and building that transparency for families and folks who are saying, what are you doing with this data? Why am I spending time clicking these buttons once or 3 times a year? And continuing to identify opportunities to bolster engagement. And I think I've been to this building a lot in the past year and have met so many of your team, and it's been amazing. And the reason for that is exactly this, thinking about how do we help support this work? This is a team effort, so we're really excited about that. And then finally, just aligning on expectations and holding folks accountable to, after each survey administration, what's our kind of protocol from the district team to the school teams on how we'll mobilize around survey results. And with that, do you all have any questions?
Trustees, any questions? Trustee Kaufman.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Reach, and thank you, Mr. Hazel. I appreciate the thorough presentation. I'm curious, Mr. Hazel, you were I appreciate all the information you provided, and I know you bring expertise from the firm. But Mr. Segura, I'm curious, where does this work? I mean, Mr. Hazel is not responsible for improving our school climate or for raising these results. So and you mentioned several names of people we're working with, but where does this work live in the district? Who owns this work in terms of making improvements on this?
Well, as far as who owns making improvements, that would be me as a superintendent. As far as who owns the contract and is the point of contact, that would be Dr. Reach. Okay. We do work closely with Gilbert Hicks, the interim chief of schools, to progress this. As he said, earlier today, we met with the executive directors. I think for us, it's a real opportunity to dive in and really figure out how we can improve not only the response rate, but also, what do we do with this information now? And acknowledging that, it's over a period of time. There's been a lot of disruptions in this organization for quite a while, so we're actually very excited about taking this work forward, but it's with me.
Okay. I really appreciate the work because I know these surveys provide a lot of valuable information for how we can, how our staff and how our students and how our families are experiencing our district. So I really appreciate that this work is happening. I also, Dr. Reach, frankly, I was a little like, why are we talking so much about the response rate? But once you began giving those examples of people who really went beyond the normal call of duty to really find creative ways and to show students that we value their voice and that we want to hear from them and to get those surveys completed, I think that was really inspirational. So I really loved those stories and want to thank not only the staff that you're recognizing, but all the other staff members who did similar efforts to try to get their class to complete the survey or to get their students to have that chance, or for families as well. So thank you for sharing those stories. I think I might have heard this, but it surprised me. So could you clarify who is included in the non-instructional school-based staff category?
So that would be anyone who's assigned to a campus who is not assigned elsewhere and is not a teacher, counselor, or librarian.
Okay, so that it does include all the classified staff and all the other employees
It does.
in addition. Okay, perfect. Glad to hear that. So there were a lot of overview data. What type of disaggregation is happening internally to look at different groups of students, to look at different categories of employees, to look at how these results are spread and who's experiencing our district more positively than others?
And Mr. Hazel kind of explained that is one example of how staff who have more experience had greater district perceptions. And so that's just one of the many ways that we can look at this different data. which includes demographics of our students or staff, years of experience for our students. It also includes any special programs that they may be part of, so that we can even look at their results based off of students who are also receiving special education services, or students who are receiving dyslexia services, or gifted and talented services, whatever that may be. And so we're able to break it down those different ways, and that's something that Mr. Hazel does training our EDs on, that I do discussing with our other chiefs and training with our chiefs. I had a great conversation with our chiefs just 2 days ago, and Dr. Holly provided some great feedback on how we also need to be intentional of the wording that we use for the different demographic groups. And I won't go into a lot of detail on it now. I'm more than happy to provide more details for trustees later. But basically, when we're out presenting this, that we are also being respectful of those groups and making sure that we're representing them properly. So that really allows us to get a better idea, and it allows us to compare. So for instance, one of the reports that's really easy to use and that we make available up front is like Title I versus non-Title I, so that we can see how those results may differ from that group. One other way I'll mention that we break it down, because I think this was a really great thing they were able to do for us, is they were able to break it down by the executive directors. So the executive directors can have their individual reports as well. But yes, Dr. Kaufman, we do go and look at all those different groups, and where do we see differences between them? They all. I'm sorry. One last thing I'll mention on that I shared with the other chief officers. Panorama also has a heat map that's available that we can go look at the questions by these different groups, and then it'll tell you. For instance, it may be race, and it may say. I'm using this just as an example. These aren't real numbers. That all of our Hispanic respondents are 4% or 4 points above the average. All of our Asian respondents are 1 point above the average. All of our white respondents are 2 points below the average, whatever that may be, so we can see how different students, and the same with staff, how they're experiencing these questions differently.
And is that disaggregation available, or is that would need to be requested or viewed? So if, for example, if the board wanted to know some of that disaggregation, is that available, or is that a simple report to run, or is that a big ask?
So all of our trustees do have administrator accounts. And so I'd be more than happy, and I bet Mr. Hazel would too, but to do kind of like what I did with our chief officer colleagues earlier, go through how we can look at those reports. So principals also have those reports for their campus. EDs have those reports for all campuses, so does other senior leaders. The public has the summary reports for the district, but they would not see that level of detail for an individual campus.
Okay. And that was my next question. I know that the reports by school are available publicly, as they have been for the TEL survey and other surveys years past. Can you just, for the sake of the viewers of this meeting, just make sure everyone knows how to access those reports if they want to see their own school?
Definitely. And the easiest way to get to it right now is we have a banner that says surveys are out, see the results. So right now it's the second banner because the board meeting is going on right now. Board meeting always becomes banner number 1. But maybe it'll be banner number 1 again tomorrow. But at some point that banner will go away, understandably. So we do have a survey webpage landing site. On there, not only is there going to be a link to these panorama survey results, we also still have posted our original surveys, whether that be the TEL survey or the original student and family survey that we conducted. So you can go look at the old survey results. They are static now, unfortunately, because we no longer have the software that was hosting it to begin with, but the static results are still there, and then you can find the panorama results. So just search survey, and there'll be a survey landing page.
Great. And then I see Mendez is not listed on the schools that were there. Is my recollection correct that Mendez had a different set of climate survey questions that were part of their agreement with the district, that they would be monitoring those?
That is correct, okay. And they'll need to provide us those. And if they choose to use Panorama, we'd be able to add them in the future.
Okay. And then last question. So am I correct that the Panorama provides us, as part of the contract, with the analysis that our DRE used to provide us? So we have access to the same type of analysis or being able to ask questions of the data. Our district staff has the ability to get that information and analysis.
Yes, sir. And I know that our EDs did a lot of that this morning, and I do a lot of it myself. And there's one of my colleagues, Zach, also helps us serve as that connection, so that if we do have another group, and I wish I could remember the exact group, I don't know if Mr. Hayes was going to remember, but we had another department who needed some survey data for a research they were doing. And Mr. Hazel was able to give us the summary of just that group of students that they needed. I should say, it's not that it was identifiable students, because we don't have access to the identifiable data. I don't think he does either. But it was a group of students that were receiving in that program. So we were able to provide them that data that they were then able to use for their responses.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much.
Trustee Hunter.
You mentioned the link, thank you. I enjoyed playing with that, even though statistics give me hives. But when I was looking at it, there is a question that I have. So when I look at like belonging, it gives us a summary. It says like how much faculty and field, that sort of thing. Under Austin ISD custom content, like it says, we're up 5 points. If I look under teachers, I'm not sure what that's referring to.
Yeah, so one thing that we also wanted to include in this survey was some feedback on Let's Talk and the customer service experience. Okay. And that's the AISD custom content that you're seeing. And that was just because when we first developed the customer experience and Let's Talk, we wanted to make sure that we had another way outside of Let's Talk to measure how people felt about that. So that's just an opportunity to say, have you used it? Have you found it helpful? Have you connected with the AISD customer experience? Have you found that helpful?
Thank you.
Did you have any other questions, Trustee Hunter?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. How about this side of the dais? Any questions? Trustee Lugo.
Thanks for the presentation. I was actually really impressed that you remembered our comments from last year, so thank you for that diligence. Can you remind me from last year, what was the percentage response to the question about instructional staff feeling trusted to do their work?
If you don't mind, I'm actually going to pull it up.
Yay.
Look.
I'm 99.9% sure it wasn't 80%, right?
It's the staff under belonging, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Non-instructional or instructional?
Instructional.
And which one was it?
Trusted to do their work.
Am I missing it? Did I click on belonging?
You're testing my memory.
Is it feedback and coaching, maybe?
It might have been school leadership.
School leadership.
That's not school leadership, that's school climate. It's definitely school climate because it was in the presentation just now.
Got it. I apologize, but you get to see a little bit of the website.
To what it says to trusted to do the work they would think that's 80%.
It was 80% last year?
Oh, last?
Yeah.
I got you. No, this is this year.
Oh. Dr. Reach.
All right, I do apologize. If you give me a minute, I am going to unplug it only because I don't want my password shown. We need to, Oscar Rodriguez would be very upset with me if I just put my password across the screen, so 1 minute.
Well, while Dr. Reach looks for that, I found it really interesting to kind of hear some of the outliers, especially the campuses where they were able to hit the 100%, and I round up too, so the 100% mark, especially in middle school. I thought that was really brilliant. And then the anecdote about campuses that had events and were able to encourage families to fill it out. I am kind of wondering what other, like ahead of next year, right? So like we're going to be in our third year of the survey. And so what other kind of peer-to-peer skill sharing might happen proactively so that more schools can do that? And then just really quick anecdotally. So I have 3 kiddos. I'm co-parenting with 90% of the co-parenting falling on me. And so I'm just going to be honest about this. When I saw the link for the survey, I thought, you know what, I'm going to be a good parent, right? I'm going to be a good board member. I'm going to fill out the survey. And I went to it on my mobile phone, and I started clicking through the through the questions. And then I was like, good Lord, there's so many. And then I stopped and I didn't complete it. So I really like the idea of like having an event, like trap me somewhere, right? Make me do this survey. So yeah, that's just a quick anecdote.
That is helpful feedback, and I think one of the things as part of our partnership is we're always thinking about like, what are we measuring? Is it the right thing? Is it too much? So length of survey is something we're always considering. In terms of sharing best practices, the executive director of leadership reports that we created allow executive directors to look across their schools and see who's doing the strongest, who's not doing the strongest, and so that naturally will create opportunities to kind of like bring folks together. Another thing that I was talking with folks today about is doing small group consultations and having executive directors kind of suggest or volunteer some of the principles, both the ones that are really owning and being successful in the work, and some that are trying and maybe not hitting exactly the mark they wish, so that we can get exactly that, the collaboration. It's really important.
Great, thank you.
And it's the teachers trusted to teach in the way they think, 68%.
I knew it was in the 60s. So whatever the administration has done to increase that, and I'm sure there's lots of different factors that contributed to the increase, I think that's a significant measure of perception. And so I don't know if any other colleagues feel the same, but from 68 to 80%, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to note that. Matthias.
Trustees, any other questions? Trustee Zapata?
So I just want to do an extra shout out for those schools who really took ownership. I mean, so that's a real demonstration of if there's a couple of people on staff that own it, it can happen. And they modeled it, and so it's just, what can we do to encourage more ownership? Because this is going to be helpful. This is for our campuses. This is for us to really get a pulse of what we need to do as trustees to bring the supports. And so participating in the surveys in this form, I just commend those that did do it and took initiative, leadership, and to model that it can be done. And it can be done, and it should be done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other trustees? Oh, Trustee Boswell, did you have one too?
Thank you for the presentation. Both of you, really appreciate seeing the data, and I agree, it's really fun to play with. There's a lot there to explore and learn from, so thank you for the tool and for making it so much of it public-facing. I really appreciate that. I have a couple of questions. One is, and then a suggestion maybe for how we measure on the scorecard. The first is really just getting to a little bit more of that flashlight that you talked about, that the survey tells us what people feel. Yep. And how we're going more deeply into why people feel that way so we can address it. And I know that you have, kind of a set of tools that you have, put together as Panorama to address certain things. And sometimes the solution is really bespoke as well, kind of campus by campus, district by district, group by group. And so I'd really love to explore a little bit more about how we kind of turn the what into the whys so we know what to do with it.
Yep, that's a great point. And I think it came up today in conversation around, so Panorama has a playbook of different So you have access to academic strategies, social emotional strategies, climate, adult well-being strategies. And so some of the executive directors didn't realize that was available to everyone in the district. So that's one example of like a toolkit that they're going to start pointing principals in the direction of for the so what's next. So that's just one example, but I agree with you.
And so what is done to make sure that the things in that playbook are the right things for that campus? Like how are those ideas connected to really what's driving that feeling on a particular campus?
That's very good. So the playbook is you're able to filter through, similar to like if you're looking at data across demographics and things like that, you're able to filter through survey sections. So if you want to find a strategy for sense of belonging that is best suited for students in upper elementary, you can actually click 2 buttons and get a long list of strategies that are aligned to that particular area. So that's one example. I think it also just has to do with building, similar to like after each benchmark assessment, you're maybe having a child study team meeting and you're diving into the data as a team to kind of think together. We talked a lot today about how they could use like PLC structures and things like that in schools to kind of help bring more teachers into the conversation and bring awareness to, because part of it is just like knowing what students are telling you and having everyone across your building understand what those perceptions are, because then it's in the back of your head a little bit. So we also talked about strategies like at our monthly staff meeting, we're going to have a question of the month, and it's going to be one data point. You're going to look at the answer distribution and see like there's 30% of our students that are in that middle answer choice. There's a huge opportunity to get them over the line or get it out of the knock it out of the park. We always call the middle answer choice the fence. But just like kind of continuing to resurface and elevate that voice and think about small things. Sometimes it's having a welcome committee at school and making sure that every student has someone say good morning and say their name every day, because students have all different experiences.
Okay, and just to go a little deeper, and this may be a question for Dr. Reach, really appreciate the playbook and the filters that you can get you to that list, but also if we're going to go back to the example of a sense of belonging, for example, and maybe that students at one campus don't feel like they have a sense of belonging because they don't have adults on campus who look like them and reflect their backgrounds. It may be that students on another campus don't have a sense of belonging because there's been a big influx of refugees in one neighborhood, that maybe the library books don't, or the curriculum doesn't reflect kids' experience. Maybe there are SEL issues, kind of bullying or something where kids need to come together. So how do we get deeper into, is that kind of work done at the campus level, and what's being done to get deeper into the why so they're selecting the right approaches? Kind of where does that come in?
Yeah, and
is that some of the coaching we've talked about? Kind of how does that play out?
Yeah, it really comes in with the executive directors for those principals, really understanding those campuses, looking at the surveys and where there could be room for growth. I don't know if Gilbert was going to come add something. And understanding that one person's room for growth could be vastly different than another's room for growth, even under the same indicator, right? Like how we're going to move that is going to be a different strategy. So,
I'm Gilbert Hicks, the Interim Chief of Schools, and good evening, President Singh, Interim Superintendent Segura, and members of the board. I absolutely love the climate surveys. I think that they give us an insight into the work that we're doing and which direction we need to go. So I truly value them, and we do a lot of work around them as we get the results. What we do is that, we have delved deeply into it, and we write action plans around them. And the number 3 is my favorite number when it comes to doing that. So what 3 actions are we going to follow in an effort to move this work forward? And everyone's plan is going to be different because it depends on where they happen to be. So Mr. Hazel mentioned some of the after work. One of the things that we do is I like to get I like to encourage principals, I do encourage principals to get advice from their faculty as to what the next steps would be. So you take, say your 3 lowest points on the survey, and you put them on a chart tablet in the room at a faculty meeting, and then you say, I'd like your advice. I'm being vulnerable here. And so on sticky notes, they work in groups or individually, and they provide you with advice about how to move forward with that particular indicator. Trustee Lugo asked about the instructional one, and there used to be one on our old survey that said, I trust my principal to make instructional decisions. So Mr. Hazel and his team probably were a little bit in awe of the fact that I was contacting them so much over the last few weeks to get them to align the survey more to the CAPER, and so we have done that. And so there are indicators on there that truly align with that particular question, and it gives you insight as to what the next move has to be. It's not about what I think about how I'm doing, it's about what others think and then how I can help move them in the right direction, and we can all work together as a team.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. That's very helpful to know and really rich. And I think looking at that slide about Navarro, I think really you see how you get from A to B to C. And I really love that slide and the local kind of creativity that it reflects. And I think that mission of going back to the people who took the time to share the data, who aren't Trustee Lugo, who took the time to share the data, and then going back to them and saying, okay, you shared it with us, what do we do? And reporting back to them and continuing to involve them. So I really, really appreciate that slide. And I think my next question is, how are we letting people know this great work is being done with this information? How are we going back and letting people on the staff, the families, the students know what we're doing with it? How are we making sure that this work is visible to them as a result of the information they've shared with us?
We need to do a better job across the board with that and making sure that we make it known publicly how, well, we talked about tonight how to access the information. I don't think that's as widely known as we'd like for it to be. So we'll own that and we'll do a better job with that. But right now, I do know that faculty knows because principals are meeting with their staffs and they are sharing the information with them. And again, strategies such as the one I talked to you about earlier, they're sharing those. We know that room for growth comes with utilizing that playbook more and seeing how we can use those strategies that have been vetted for us nationally to improve our work is something that we can do to help us move in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a question. Do we have a sense of why we feel like we're seeing growth in the perceptions among employees and some erosion in the perceptions among families and students? Do we have a theory about that?
No, I don't have a theory about it, but I do know that one of the things that it's intrigued me is the structure of the survey itself and the fact that I think that there might be some growth that we can do in education around the meaning of the survey, the 5-point scale. So as Mr. Hazel said, the top 2 choices are the positives that we are seeing, but that neutral is sort of ambivalent, and some people may think that means that, it's okay, I just don't want to respond, and so they don't. And then, we aren't forcing the choice up above that, but he gave the example of the fact that we could take, say, 20% might be the number in that neutral group. How can we move that 20% up to the top 2 choices and get results that really show how people are really feeling versus this survey is not one that I truly understand just yet.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
One other thought on the order of operations. I'm not surprised that staff would improve faster. Just thinking about them coming to work every day, it's like such a big part of their lives, as opposed to not every family is going to talk to every principal or really be knowledgeable of the things that are happening, but staff being agents of some of that work that is happening as a result of the survey. Like, it wouldn't surprise me that staff would be like the leaders and starting to increase. And then now that they're aware of we're focused on belonging, and here's one thing that I can do every day, greet my kids at the door, and that, so it's kind of trickled down to the other respondent groups as well.
Okay,
I hope.
interesting to hear. Yeah, I hope, and I think it's interesting to hear that, but both of those factors were true last year too. And so to see families going backwards and students going backwards to, a small degree while the staff is going forward, I hope we're trying to figure that out. So yeah, I think that's obviously immensely important. So thank you for that. I just want to flag, I don't think it's a district issue. I think it's a world issue, that 20% drop in worry about violence at school. That really leapt out at me, and I think, we're doing good work as a district to make sure with our bond, with work that's being done this summer, with the updates, like the intrusion alert updates, with a mental health services, with a lot of things to make sure our students feel safe, our staff feel safe, our families feel safe sharing their students with us every day, and just really want to lean into what we can do about that in a world where there are a lot of things we can't do about that. So that really leapt out at me, and I think I didn't want it to go without comment. So thank you for that. And then the one last question, I think, to measure, and I appreciate having each of you here to help us, because I know we talked a lot last time about what we were measuring and the clusters that you kind of tested, clusters of information that you have worked with, and what we want to see as a group on that measurement on our scorecard. I think my understanding, and Dr. Reach, correct me if I'm wrong, is that last year there was a lot of talk about leaning just into the campus level data, and I really think we need to, in my opinion, I would like to combine that campus level and district level data, because people's experiences as employees are connected to both. And seeing that district level data, the district's support was such a dramatically low area, and we have made good progress in it, as Trustee Lugo said. And I think is one important thing to include in that measure, in my opinion. So to add those district level, the district support questions for staff into that scorecard measure would be something I would love to consider, that and the measure you suggest for that campus level, and put them together. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Boswell. Trustee Gonzalez, you didn't have one? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, okay.
Mr. Haley, I just noticed in the, I forgot, in the Bowie newspaper, they have a whole section here on the climate survey with the panorama results. So I don't know if you get that very regularly, but this is for you.
I love that. I love that.
Another shout out to the dispatch.
So I have a couple of questions. Did you have something, Vice President Foster? Why don't you go first?
Just only one thing. Can we aggregate by state level? So we have we have schools, we have our district, we have national. Can we? I don't know if that's easy to do or not, and if that's available.
Yeah. So currently, no. It is something that we hear a lot, especially with our Texas partners. I think it has to do with, we have a lot of different topic area or sections, topics that we measure. So nationally, we have the data set to be able to create that model. At the state level, a few years back, we just didn't have the data to be able to do that reliably, but definitely something I can bring back to our team.
Just as might that be useful or no?
I don't know. I think yeah.
Okay.
I think
and so specifically, as I'm looking through, and I'm seeing points of satisfaction or dissatisfaction, I'm wondering how much of that is within our control, or how much of that is kind of sort of dictated by state level policy around safety or around our curriculum or whatever.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so I'd be interested if it's not too onerous, but this is so much data and there's already a ton to dig into, but that would be
I'm
neat.
adding that to my notebook.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for this presentation. I did have a couple. I wanted to bring it back to the scorecard measures themselves and get a sense of, did we meet our goals for this year? And so that might be more of a Dr. Reach question, but I do know that the actual target that we had for this year For the staff satisfaction was 65%. For student satisfaction, it was 59% is the target. And for family satisfaction, the target is 73%. So my question is, were we able to meet those targets, and what were the actual numbers for each of those?
Yeah, excuse me. Let me start with student and family. We were not able to meet those targets. Our goal was 59% for students. Our actual was 49%. That one did regress. Our family goal was 73%, and our actual was 68%. And that one also went backwards a little bit, so we did not meet either of those. Our staff goal was based off of the placeholder climate subsection, recognizing that that may change, but based off of the climate subsection and using the same goal settings that we did for the other goal of 80%. The goal, which I do want to stress, we did set well before the survey went out, would have been set at 65%, and staff did hit 66%. So that one was met. Not only, and it had a big increase, as you saw. And then our survey participation for staff, we did not meet that one either.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. So I think it would be helpful, Mr. Segura, if we can get a summary of that and either like add it to board docs in case the public wants to see that, because it's traditionally what our scorecard, we're kind of used to that format to just so we can track if we're meeting our goals or not. So that's.
Yeah, President Singh, that wouldn't be a problem at all.
Thank you. The other thing that I would be really curious, I mean, the reason, at least from my perspective, that one of the big reasons we're looking at climate surveys is because there is an assumption that if the climate is good at a school, student achievement is high. And so I kind of want to link it back to that big picture of student achievement. And, you know, do we have plans of looking at relationships between campuses that have shown big jumps in climate, you know, and satisfaction, and see if there's associated jumps in achievement? And likewise, if things are dropping with climate, are we seeing drops in achievement? Yeah. So I don't know, Mr. Segura.
And we do have plans to do that. At the very early stages, I know that Mr. Hicks was already thinking, because he shared some with me on like, oh, that school's also, you know, high performing. So we're already thinking of that, but yes, the plan would be that when we're looking at a campus as a whole and we're trying to understand what's going on with that campus, is not just looking at STAR scores, but into UMAP scores, what other test scores that go along with that, and survey data, and other scorecard indicators that we may have, like looking at that whole picture, and especially when those executive directors are meeting with those campuses near the end. Well, near the end of the year, recognizing that STAR we won't have for another 2 months, but.
I appreciate that.
I have to add, I'm sorry, that the executive directors meet weekly with their groups of schools, and in those groups, they have been sharing best practices amongst them for the schools that have shown high achievement in certain indicators on the surveys, and so best practices are being shared.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So the other thing is, you know, there is so much data here, but as a good sort of shortcut, I guess, is just looking at the overview, you know, just clicking on AISD on the first home screen, and then just looking at the summary for each group of people. And so when I look at students, like I have to be honest, it's not looking so hot when you look at it from this perspective. There may be many reasons for that, but you know, it is, I will say, it feels disappointing to see that we've gone down in every category except for one, which is the school rigorous expectation. So I guess if you're going to go up in one, that's probably a good one to go up in. And school climate is the one that seemed to have dropped the most. And the specific question there where it seems we had the most decrease was, how pleasant or unpleasant is the physical space at your school? Well, you look at that, Mr. Segura. So good call on the bond, and hopefully that will change. But then the next one is, how positive or negative is the energy of the school? And that's a really interesting one. So I just say that not because I have any real thoughts, but I just want to point out like the key things that I'm seeing on the data. I don't know how you capture that in a campus improvement plan, but I really do. I was really happy to hear that you are making a connection between this and the campus improvement plans, so each campus can see it. Now, when I look at the teacher summary, that looks much better. Not only do we see increases in nearly every single category, but we're at a higher percentile. We're like in the 60th to 79th percentile for every single indicator, which I'm really glad to see. And I think a lot of that is your leadership and your energy, Superintendent Segura, and the hard work of our staff that are doing that. But then the family members, when I think about our enrollment issues in the district, so many parents leave because they feel like they're not being heard in some ways, or they don't feel like the school is the right fit for their child for some reason. And safety is an issue too. So I appreciate what Vice President Foster has said about like how much of this is really stuff that's like district specific, how much of it is state. So when you actually go into the data, as Trustee Boswell also noticed, when you asked, why are we seeing, growth in the teachers but a decrease in parents, there is an answer, and the question is about violence. How often do you worry about violence at your child's school? So I really would like us to keep this sort of top of mind as we're talking about other things in the district, because that we know from our SEL training, our Bruce Perry work, if students are worried about safety, it's harder for them to think about school. But there were also drops in questions about bullying that seemed to be like the next theme. And so, as part of the School Safety and Security Committee, it would be useful probably to share some of this and think about how our work on the committee can help address some of these issues. I know the district is working on all this. We've got a whole team of wonderful staff working on this. But I do want to hear more about this work. And then how that connects to student achievement. That's the bottom line, because when we think about what monetary investments we want to make in the districts, we want to make it in things that are going to address some of these key indicators. But I know you've been trying to say something, so go ahead. Mr. Segura.
No, President Singh, I think my only comment would be that, as we move into this space, as the school year closes, we think about planning and preparing for next year. Having this information is timely, thinking about, as we go through the changes within the organization, as we stabilize, this is really going to help us kind of move out of this phase and enter the next school year, I think, well positioned. But you're absolutely right. I mean, this information has to be coupled with student achievement data, has to be coupled with what we're seeing on our campuses, has to be tied to vacancies, and that'll help inform all of the work. More than happy to provide an update, perhaps sometime in late June. Perhaps the first meeting in August, maybe even through an information session to really show y'all how all this is kind of woven together to actually develop a comprehensive plan. I think the tips are great. I mean, all of those are great avenues, but ultimately speaking, it has to be like one comprehensive plan. So no, we're excited to do the work, and I think it's timely, and that's what we're about to enter into the next couple of weeks, to be honest.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Dr. Reach, you had mentioned having a discussion around which survey items might be most appropriate. That might be a good thing for us to talk about when we have our Lone Star governance training, or maybe right after we've had that training, so that we all share the same language on what we're looking for and why it's important. So I just want to ask my colleagues on the board, does that sound okay to you? Or would you rather begin that conversation on which specific questions would actually feed into the scorecard goal? Anybody? Any opinions? Oh, go ahead.
I feel like given the time of year, we do have some time before we have our next scorecard, discussion about this, and these are all things we're working on. So I think, given that we've looked at this, we're looking at the results. Mm-hmm. We don't have that urgency in setting that metric right now, that it could wait.
Okay, after we've had that training, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, cool. Thank you.
President Singh, can I make one more comment?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, so I really appreciate President Singh, the kind of connecting the dots between like bullying, facilities, security, planning for next year, and then the other piece that comes to mind is like mental health, staffing, all that, right? And so I'm wondering, and this is probably already in the plan, but as the district and the various campuses gain clarity about how they're going to approach the new school year, with respect to all these issues, like a one-pager or something for parents to have a better understanding of, like, and sorry to be too informal, but like for reals, what happens at my school? Because there's the what's on paper, and then there's the, no, like seriously, what's available at my school, with respect to bullying, mental health, and like plans, like how the bond will impact security and the facility. And so earlier, so again, an anecdote. So earlier this week, I went to one of my kiddos' band concerts at a middle school, and I brought a friend with me, and that person said, "You can just walk in," and he noticed something that hadn't occurred to me. I was like, "Oh yeah, you can walk in. There's a campus. Everybody's welcome." But he saw it from a safety issue, and I thought that was really interesting. So I imagine, among our really diverse community, there's probably differing opinions, and that may impact perceptions around safety, bullying, and facilities. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. All right. Looks like there's no more questions, so thank you all very much. Appreciate the work. Okay, so we will now move to the consent agenda. Trustees, are there any consent items anyone would like to pull for a separate vote?
Yes, Trustee Singh.
Yes.
I'd like to pull 12.3 and 14.11.
Okay, any others? Okay, great. Oh,
I'd like to pull 10.2. And 12.2.
okay. Okay, great. And I just want to confirm with our board counsel, we do not have to make a motion on that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so just to repeat.
I really just want to make a comment on each of those. Do we need to pull it
Okay, you don't
make a
have to
comment?
pull it to make a comment.
Okay, I would like to unpull those.
Okay.
I would like to make a comment.
No problem. Okay, so we are pulling items 12.3 and 14.11 from Trustee Hunter. Okay, so Secretary Boswell, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes, I move to approve items 10.1 through 10.3. Items 11.1 through 11.8. 12.1 and 12.2. 12.4 to 12.14. 13.1 and 13.2. 14.1 through 14.10. 14.12. 15.1 through 15.6. And then we're waiting on the items for a separate vote.
Pardon me, Trustee Singh?
Oh, yes.
I'd like to re-pull 10.2.
10.2?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we will, so Trustee Boswell, it's going to be 10.1 and 10.3 instead of 10.1 through 10.3. Okay. All right. So is there a second? All right. Trustees, is there any discussion on any of these consent items? Let's start with, so that we're not all over the place. Are there any discussion on the 10s? Okay.
Just one quick question on 10.3 on the TEKS certification for 2023, 2024. I'm curious why the form that was attached in our binder is blank.
Dr. Diaz, thank you for coming up. No, thank you for coming up.
Okay. Hi, I'm Susan Diaz. We followed the format last year, and the form was blank last year. We do have the filled out form that we can bring up and show you, but it's just basically a verification of the textbooks we use.
Just curious about that. If the item we're voting on is the completed form, then the item provided was the blank form. Can we vote on that?
Does it, I guess maybe that's a question for Dr. Diaz. If there's, is it the administration's thought that it doesn't make a difference how it's completed?
We do have the completed form. I have that, but again, we followed the process from last year, and it was a blank form that was uploaded last year. So.
President Singh has your signature on it, so I'll defer to you on that, but I just wanted to raise that as a question.
That's fine. I think that, yeah. This is clearly a recommendation from the administration.
Correct.
Yes.
So I think we'll probably defer to your expertise on which textbooks
Okay, thank you.
we are purchasing.
Yeah,
So-
and it's the same textbooks we had last year and the year before.
Okay, thank you. And I do read the contracts before I sign them, so, and I'll be sure to reach out to you if I have questions or reach out to you.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Would it be possible to add it to board docs for anyone in our community who's interested to see the textbooks we're using? I know parents often have an interest in that, and I think it would be valuable to add that for people if we can add that retroactively to board docs.
We can do that, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move to the 11s. Does anybody have any questions or comments on any of the 11 items?
Do we have anyone who wants to talk about 10.2?
No, that was 10.3. We'll do that when we talk about separate vote. How about the 12s? Any questions on the 12s?
I have a comment on a 12.
Yes.
So on 12.2, which is the approval of contracts for dyslexia, professional development, curriculum, and materials, I just want to note that I will certainly vote in favor of this on the consent agenda because I want to support providing those resources that are recommended by our administration for the schools. And those are resources that are directly in support of our district scorecard goals of improvement in reading, including success for students who are identified with dyslexia or for special education services, including for our students who are emergent bilingual, including for our students who are African American. So having these resources available for teachers is essential in order to meet those goals that we have. So I want to vote in favor of that, but I do want to, like Trustee Hunter mentioned earlier, just to request that we do really look carefully at how the resources are allocated and how they're used, and that we do a thorough, that you, I guess, do a thorough evaluation and review of where and how the resources are used so we can really be spending that money well and getting really good results for students. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kaufman. All right, anyone else for anything in section 12, which is business and finance? Okay. We will move on to 13, which is the facilities. Any questions or comments on that? Okay.
Real quickly. 13.1.
Yes, 13.1?
Yes. I just had, we talked, the chief provided, the CFO provided really good explanation along about with the hub. The only thing I didn't get clarity on was the timeline of the recommended implementation.
So tonight, the board will approve the actual disparity study, which did have recommended good faith effort percentages. And then we will bring back to the board the goals again, just to make sure that we're clear on them. And we just need to schedule that in a future board meeting with the board officers.
Thank you. And that's a scorecard, right? That's do we have that? That was just aspirations on our hub numbers.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, next we have section 14, which is related to human resources. You can scoot on back there. Human resources. Any Trustee Kaufman?
Yeah, so I would like to request, as I have before, that when we vote for the appointments of people, if we could have either our superintendent or chief human capital officer to identify and celebrate those people who are receiving those positions. And then also I wanted to ask for 1412. I do have a question that perhaps Chief Hosak could answer. 1412 is around the, it is titled Austin ISD Employee Health Plans for the 2024 plan year. So I'd like to ask you, first of all, could you just express to the public the information that's in there around the provision of those same plans at no extra cost for employees?
Of course, absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Kaufman. Good evening, Board, President Singh, Interim Superintendent Segura, Bernie Hosick, Chief Human Capital Officer. There is no change to this year's benefit plans. This is actually the end of this plan, and we will go out for RFP again. But this is no change. And I'm happy to report that Austin ISD actually has lower claims than the national average, so our folks are healthier. We're doing a good job on wellness, but yes, sir, there is no dollar change for our employees.
Yeah, I just want to recognize that because
Yes, sir.
that with rising health costs and other things, that is a benefit for employees to not have to see those costs rise.
Yes, sir.
I do want to ask, though, based on a conversation we had earlier this year, has there been any further thought to making enrollment for, since there is no change to the plans, I would expect most employees would choose to continue on the same plan they're on. Has there been any further consideration to making it an opt-out for current employees instead of an opt-in, so that if they want to just remain on the plan, they don't have to, right? And then it would save your staff the time and expense of all the follow-ups and all the responsibility you take for making sure everyone gets signed up. Any further thought on that?
Yes, sir. So again, we'll be going out for RFP for the next 3-year roll of the plan. There are certain stipulations for when you do healthcare that, to provide open enrollment and to be able to, make those changes in a certain amount of time. And so we can work through that on safeguards for that, especially. It's a little treacherous if we default someone into something that they don't want. We run into legalities there, but we can absolutely explore that with our provider.
Okay. I just, personal experience, I know that when and now that I am on my spouse's health plan, and always with the spouse's health plan, it's always been one where if we fall asleep in September, it's still, our kids are still insured. And I think that's also a real benefit for employees where they don't, run the risk of losing health insurance for their family.
I agree.
So if there's a way that can be strongly considered in the next RFP, I'd appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions for the section on HR? Okay, so we'll move on to 15, which is policy. Are there any questions or comments on that? No. I had one comment I'd like to make, and this is probably the big one that many of you have been waiting for, which is the consultation agreement on employee compensation. And I really appreciate, Mr. Segura, the work that you and your team have done in coming up with something that really gets us closer to compensating our hardworking staff for all the work that they're doing for our students and our community. I'm very excited to support it. I will say, though, at the same time, I have a little bit of heartburn watching what's happening at the legislature and thinking about, the threat of vouchers, the lack of what I don't see necessarily a clear, I don't see a windfall coming our way in the district right now. And so there's a little bit of risk when you look at the fiscal cliff that we're kind of heading towards a little bit. I know we're okay for next year, and I know we're actually doing better with our fund balance than we've had in the past. It's not as high as I personally would like to see it, but I also, there's a little risk there, but I also understand that there is a real risk if we don't invest in our employees right now. And the risk there is our students are not going to learn. They're not going to meet the high targets that we've set for them. And we know that the research shows that the number one factor in student achievement in a school setting is the teacher. If there's not a high quality teacher in that classroom, if there's not people around educating our students, then we're not gonna, why are we here, right? And so this is long overdue, so I'm excited to support it. I know there are risks. I have two asks. One is for our staff. Thank you for acknowledging that we do need to really think about ways to tighten our belts going forward. And my hope is that we continue to engage in that conversation with our community and the board. And the other ask is for our community. As we as a board have identified compensation as a huge priority. At the same time, if the legislature doesn't, do what we're hoping they're going to do, it may mean that we have some really tough conversations in the coming years. And I would just hope that you remember tonight and the excitement that we feel about the compensation investment. It may come at a cost of other things that I don't know what they are yet, but we have limited finances and we have to be responsible about them. And I trust our administration for leading us in that. But just thank you again for your work, Superintendent Segura, and thank you to our staff who have worked so hard on behalf of our children. Do any other trustees have comments? Trustee
Yeah,
Boswell?
I'd love to just add to your comments. I think I'm absolutely ready to get behind your recommendation on this. Really appreciate all the work that has gone into it. And I think knowing what we're seeing at the legislature, where we are not going to get a major investment in our schools this year, I think that has become clear, that there may be some increase in our funding, but not anything close to what people were hoping for even a few weeks ago, it appears. That I think I am happy to support, and it's really a reflection of the trust that I have in you for the work that you've done and the effort that you've made to push this as far as you can in a way that is responsible. So I really appreciate that. And I want to acknowledge that districts all around our state are making these same hard choices. Our neighbors in Central Texas are making these same hard choices, and really appreciate the creativity that you've brought to it, and really want to lean in as a community to the work you're planning to do to look at our expenses and to make sure that we are looking at everything so that we can be as responsible as we can be, and so we can avoid, so we can lean into these raises that we know we need for our students and our staff, so they can serve our students and make sure that we can sustain that. So really appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other trustees? All right. So we have, having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Zapata to approve consent items 10.1 and 10.3, 11.1 through 11.8, 12.1 and 12.2, 12.4 through 12.14, 13.1 and 13.2, 14.1 through 14.10, 14.11, 12. You're like watching me, it's making me nervous. 15.1 through 15.6. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, the motion passes unanimously. Let's do it one more time. All right. So wonderful. I think that deserves some applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
You're welcome. Okay. We will now move to those items pulled from the agenda. The first agenda item is, let's start with 10.2. by trustee, which was pulled by trustee Gonzalez, and that is related to the approval of essential area standards of service. Let's see. Yes, Secretary Boswell, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve item 10.2.
Okay, and is there a second? Okay, so trustees, are there any questions or comments on 10.2?
Thank you. So I don't really have a lot of questions on 10.2. I did want to say thank you to the administration for altering the parameters that were provided to campuses going into the upcoming school year, as well as clarifying elements of the process for how those parameters were determined and how conversations were happening with campus administrators. I've heard a lot of community feedback from parents, even feedback from elementary age students about how they feel and how their outcomes in elementary PE are affected by this redesign. And I also know that it was a significant investment as a district for us to undertake this initiative. I don't feel that even with the parameters that have been adapted into the upcoming school year, that this is the correct course of action for elementary physical education. And I do not intend to vote to approve the standards of service as we have them. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any other questions or comments on 10.2? Yes, Trustee Hunter.
I am very concerned. I'm appreciative of the things we've done to add teachers in those schools the schools that need, music and art the most, who are not going to get that outside of the school. And I really appreciate what the administration has done to ensure that our students in the southeastern, northeastern, and eastern crescent will be able to have an FTE in that position. I am still very concerned how it will play out for our students in those areas when it comes to the number we're selecting. I feel like where there's smaller campuses, if we use more time, I feel like we could still possibly wind up with 60 kids in a gym, right? Because of the way we've set it 1 to 30. And if I have my TA and it's raining and I'm in an old building, I still have 60 kids in the gym. And that concerns me when it comes to safety. I know that the administration is working hard to verify and make sure that everything is aligning like it should. But the reality that we mentioned, like what's really going on in my kid's school, sometimes just out of our control. There's weather, there's something falls down and we can't be out there today, or they're cutting grass, or whatever's happening. And so I feel like the current standards of service leave a lot open for our most vulnerable students to still not have their needs met. So just a comment on that, and I also will not be voting for 10.2 in support of 10.2.
Thank you, Trustee Hunter. Anyone else? Trustee Kaufman.
Thank you. So I do appreciate all the work that went into revising it and to the engagement that took place during that time. I do believe that was a sincere effort, but I also am concerned that it's a very, and I also understand like the importance at this time of not snapping back to something else that would then disrupt the changes that had been made previously. So I feel like this current administration was put in a difficult position because a change was made without the effective engagement of staff that we would expect an administration to take when making a big decision like that. And so I understand kind of some of the limitations on that. And I do want to support the idea that we have 1,000 other fish to fry right now, or a lot of other hot buttons that are needing to be addressed, and that there's only so much disruption or change that our campuses can endure at any given time. So I'm sensitive to that. But I also feel that we could have gone further on this, and I feel like specifically we had a board meeting on April 6th where this was presented, and we had previous meetings But at that April 6th meeting, like, the public feedback was still open, right? The forum was still open for providing public feedback. And the surveys had only been provided in Spanish a couple days before that. And I'm not sure whether that was even communicated to the community that the Spanish survey was open. But that survey was still open at the time of that meeting, and there was a lot of questions from the board, and there were a lot of public comments that occurred at that time. But here, that was April 6th, and now on May 18, essentially the same exact proposal is being presented to us with no changes or adjustments to that time. So I'm just a little curious about how that engagement or the feedback is being taken from the board, but also from the community and from the teachers who've been voicing their concern. I'm concerned that there really was no option presented to campuses to return to the ABC schedule that had worked previously. And so I understand that there are some campuses for whom this change they felt were beneficial. And so we didn't want to force them back to a change. But there are other campuses that were doing just fine with the ABC who might have been able to make a different adjustment given that. And that really didn't seem to have been considered or to be an option. I'm concerned that there are no class size limits for the art and music classes. And I understand that there is no state law about that, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a need for reasonable class size limits to be placed on that. And so I don't know what the safeguards are to prevent us from having 50 kids in an art class or a music class. I trust that our principals will not put our teachers in those positions, but it could happen where we have 50 kids in an art or a music class. And I just think that that's, an unfortunate door to leave open. In addition to the PE class sizes that have, I believe, anecdotally been shown to be problematic. I've heard from so many different campuses, parents, teachers, principals, about the concern about the number of kids in the spaces and not necessarily having spaces for all that. So I think that's still a concern. I'm still concerned that there's, that for a second year in a row, we're investing $8 million in music, art, and PE teachers, which are important. Like, I absolutely want us to have the music, art, and PE teachers that we need. But we invested $8 million in music, art, and PE teachers, and I have yet to hear one person say that art, music, or PE are better than they were, right? I've heard some people say it's great having PE every day, but as far as the quality of education that's being provided or the opportunities for kids to benefit from these programs, I haven't really heard much about that. So we're investing $8 million to solve a problem of teacher planning time, but we're doing it, I think, at the expense of art, music, and PE. And I feel that we're over-investing in that because there's over $2 million worth of extra music and art teachers in this plan that wouldn't be needed under the ABC proposal. So I just feel at a time of difficult finances that we're throwing money at something that didn't need to be fixed. I think there are, if we had to invest $8 million to provide the extra planning time, I'm all in favor of that because I do think that that's a benefit. But I'm curious about that combination still. So So I am hopeful, right, that I know that the premise of this would be that there would be a tweak this year and that we would be able to undergo a more thorough redesign. And hopefully that redesign can be a undesign, right, to take us back closer to where we had been. So I'm kind of holding to that promise that there will be a more thorough. And I know that, again, there are still 1,000 crises to address this year, but I still think this is one of those crises and that we need to invest the time and energy to get it right for next year. One learning experience I had from this in trying to stay in my role of governance in the board is I'm surprised to see that AISD has really no policy on art and music instruction at the elementary level. Unless I'm missing something, there is nothing in our policy that kind of establishes an art and music program in elementary, and state law doesn't really require it either. So I really am going to ask the policy committee for us to take a closer look at that, and I would like to ask that the administration include policy recommendations in the effort for next year. What can we put into policy that will kind of guarantee these? And the reason I'm so surprised by that is because one of the strengths of AISD has been this amazing commitment to art, music, and PE. When I taught in Houston back in a while ago, we didn't have art. There was no art teacher. I was the art teacher, and God help any child who has to learn art from me. And so, that has been a beautiful thing about Austin is that we have this amazing commitment to art, music, and PE. And the PE curriculum, for me, PE, I remember playing games and getting dodgeballs thrown at me. the PE curriculum was amazing. How do we have a PE curriculum when the amount of days that people are in PE differ every day, and when there's a TA teaching the class half the time? So I feel like there are things that are amazing that we have, but they're not in policy. So I'm curious how, I'm not curious. Art and music and PE survived 40 years of this amazing plan because of the commitment from our public and our parents and our community who values this. And so I feel we owe it to our community to get this right. So that's, I want to support this because we have other things to work on. I'm not sure that I'll vote yes for this, though.
Vice President Foster.
Just as a clarifying question, Trustee Kaufman, since there is more state guidance on PE than there is art and music, is your request that policy committee look at art and music and PE, or art and music?
I think we need to take a peek at PE, but I think art and music is the one I really would like to look at.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other trustees have comments? Trustee Lugo?
So my vote tonight is in alignment with the comments that were made earlier by Trustee Hunter, Trustee Gonzalez, and Trustee Kaufman. This is not to mean that I don't have confidence in you or your administration. I know y'all worked hard. And to Trustee Kaufman's point, y'all were put in a difficult position. Y'all were put in a difficult position last year when you saw the, not necessarily, but I'm just saying, when it was clear that this was an impossible task to undertake. So it's not a reflection of that, but it is in alignment with the concerns that have been articulated.
Thank you. Any other trustees? All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation and all the work and the planning that's gone in, and appreciate the comment that I think this may be a partial step to where we need to land. I am going to vote in support of this tonight because I know good work has been done, even if we're not where we need to be, because I respect the plan not to upend everything this year in the same way it was upended last year. We saw the ripples of that, and the commitment to kind of continue asking hard questions to get to something that's really workable for the planning time that I know is essential, and to restore our very high quality PE to get to a class size. We know that music, art, and PE are not tested subjects, but they are subjects that create a whole child. We know there's data that say strong arts education impacts academic success. I know we have a long way to go toward making sure our students are achieving in reading, in math, in other subjects, as we know they can and must be. But I don't think the way we have done music, art, and PE is the reason for the lack of success in other fields. I think when we get those things right, that amplifies our students' success in other areas. We know music correlates with math success. We know it's a mental health issue. We know a lot of things. I do have continued concerns about the number of TAs, the financial investment, but also the human investment when we know we need special education TAs and when we know there is a shortage of humans to hire, a shortage of people to hire, and the drag on academic services that this creates with our TAs, with people who are available to work in our district. I hope there's a plan to address that. And I do, a lot of promises have been made about bringing us heat maps to show us kind of who's getting what, about making sure we're updated on that staffing, about understanding whether kids are getting injured in these giant PE classes where that continues. I really hope we continue talking about that, and I'm ready to support this tonight with the hope that we can get to something even better that serves all the needs we're trying to serve, and that supports planning time, that supports our students' academic success and represents the values of our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other trustees have comments?
I would like to say that I do plan to vote in favor of it because I want to support this administration with moving on to other things, and I want to recognize all the work that's gone in by campuses to work to fill these, to meet these standards. I was at a CAC meeting the other day where they were sharing the revised plan, and it was pretty good plan, all things considered. And so I don't know what Plan B would be right now on May 18th if we don't approve this, because I don't know where we would find the time or to do anything different. But I do fully support my colleagues who will vote against, and I appreciate that, because I do think that we have, this is a continuation of a breach of trust, and I think I'm trying to stick in my governance lane, but I do feel, and so for me, finding that there's nothing in our policy around art and music was part of what allows me to vote in favor of this, because that's our avenue for supporting art and music is through our policy. But I also look at our values, and that's part of our responsibility, is to make sure our district is living up to its values. And I see a culture of respect, transparency, and data-informed decision-making. Actually, no, I see, well, that too, but I see valuing meaningful engagement of all voices as we collaborate. I see engaging our employees and inviting their collaboration to make AISD a great place to work. And I see aligning resources to our student needs. And this is a budget issue. So I fully support my colleagues who will choose to vote against it, because it is a budget issue and it's a values issue. But I will choose to vote for it in support of our administration and trying to move forward onto other things.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Zapata to approve item 10.2, the essential area standards of service. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we have 5 in favor. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so the motion passes with 5 in favor and 4 opposed. Thank you. So now we will move on to the next item that was pulled for separate vote. That was pulled by Trustee Hunter. That was 12.3. And that was an approval of an education affiliate agreement with Austin Community College and AISD to provide clinical experiences for student nurses, occupational therapy assistants, and physical therapist assistants. Secretary Boswell, do I have a motion?
Yes, I move to appoint item number 12.3.
Okay, to approve item 12.3.
To approve item
Okay.
12.3. Did I say oppose?
You said appoint.
Oh, appoint, no, approve.
I knew what you meant.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, so having a motion by Trustee Boswell to approve item 12.3 and a second by Trustee Zapata. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, abstaining. Okay, so we have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention, Trustee Hunter. And we will now move to, so the motion passes. Now we have 14.11. So Secretary Boswell, do I have a motion?
I move to approve 14.11.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, so having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Zapata to approve 14.11. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Okay, so once again, for 14.11, we had 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention, so the motion passes. Okay, got through that. Now we have two items for two additional items that were pulled for separate vote previously. Secretary Boswell, do we have a motion to approve item 16.1?
Yes, I move to approve item 16.1, Memorandum of Understanding between Austin ISD and UTH Natural Sciences Teacher Residency Partnership.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. All right. Trustees, is there any discussion on this item? Okay, so having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Zapata to approve item 16.1. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, raise your hand. Those abstaining. Okay, the 2 UT faculty. All right, so go figure. So we have 7 in favor, 0 opposed, and 2 abstaining, so the motion passes. And then we've got one more, y'all. This was item 16.2. So Secretary Boswell, do we have a motion for 16.2?
Yes, I move to approve item 16.2, approval of an interlocal cooperation contract between the University of Texas at Austin, UTEACH, College of Natural Sciences, and Austin ISD to provide UT Prep outreach program.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. All right. Trustees, is there any discussion? Okay, having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Zapata to approve item 16.2. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, we've got 7 in favor. Those opposed? Abstentions? All right. It feels like Groundhog Day up here. So the motion passes with 7 in favor, 0 opposed, and 2 abstaining. So thank you. We will now recess the open.
Or appointments? Can we announce the appointments?
Yes. Would you like?
Well, I was going to do it as via notification out to everybody. You can read all these?
If you, I mean, I know that.
There's a lot of things.
Well, I just know that, especially with principal appointments, people watch the meeting waiting to see these appointments, and then it's like, wah, wah, because there's no actual celebration of it. So I think we do, because it's kept confidential on the agenda for privacy purposes, it's no longer confidential, and I think we should announce it to the public for those who are watching the meeting.
Does anybody on the dais oppose doing that? Are you comfortable doing that?
Well, I just want to make sure I have all the names. I mean, I know them all, but I want to make sure I get it precisely correct instead of reading through it.
Would you mind, Trustee Kaufman, if we started that going forward
That is
after
fine.
this meeting?
And
Okay.
congratulations
Is that
and
okay
welcome
with
to all of our new
everyone?
appointees. Can we just note one of them, because there's been a lot of public interest in one of the appointees?
Okay.
I mean, they're all important.
All right. So how about we?
They're just- Okay, never mind. Disregard. Disregard. I would like to just congratulate all of the new appointees and welcome them
Yes,
to your.
thank you.
A lot of names. I know them all, but I'm going to get one of you.
Thank you. All right, we will now, congratulations to everyone who got their appointments. Yes. So we will now recess the open meeting at 8:55 p.m. and move to executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, and 551.071. When we are finished with the exec session, we will briefly return to open session to formally adjourn the meeting. The adjournment will be recorded and be included in all replays of tonight's meeting. So thank you so much for joining us and have a great evening. We will now reconvene the open meeting at 11:29 p.m. Secretary Boswell, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Kaufman to adjourn. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. The meeting is adjourned at 11:29 p.m. Thank you.